even explain, because if you grip it too high,
being led by the Oakland County Sheriff's Office. Now, in the parking lot, we're across the street from Lapeer Road. This is where we are supposed to be briefed by the Oakland County Undersheriff in a matter of minutes. But again, I just want to take note, if we can pan over right here and look at this has been a constant scene for our drive here. Police officers from all over the county, even the Tri-County area, coming to assist. You have state police. It's really, as they say, an all hands on deck situation. Where we're standing right now, I just walked over and talked to a man. He looked very upset in his car, rolled down the window, and I said, "Are you a parent?" He shook his head, started to well up with tears, and said, "I am a parent." I asked him if his son or daughter was okay. He had a son that was inside of the school, said that his son is okay. He's behind us at the reuniting area with the Oakland County Sheriff, but he as a father is not allowed in there quite yet. They're kind of holding the kids and getting a little bit more organized before these parents are allowed in there. But he told us he has been able to talk to his son, a high schooler at Oxford High, and said that what happened is when they started to hear shots, they barricaded themselves inside of the classroom, again, as we've seen, with desks and other stuff in front of the door, and just sort of hid in those moments of, I would imagine, terror. The father, he really stopped there. He couldn't say much more. He just started to cry, was thankful that his son is okay, but just said there's so many questions, as this has just really only happened a little over an hour ago. And as I said, we are expected to learn a little bit more from the Oakland County Sheriff, but right now their main concern, students, staff, and a lot of those students are being transported right here to be reunited with family. The parent we spoke to said he's a little unclear if they're going to put those kids on buses or if the parents will be allowed to come, but you can imagine just a monumental effort right now trying to not only secure the school, make sure there's not injured kids still in that school, injured kids or students, and just organizing this whole situation in the freezing cold is a tall order right now.
Jessica, right now, we just saw 2 medevac units that landed. The first one from U of M, the second one just landed moments ago. This obviously, you've covered law enforcement and police stories for many years. We know EMS are on the scene right now on the inside of that school. We know that the minute you bring in medevac units, we're talking about injuries that are pretty serious.
Absolutely, Roop. I mean, the preliminary number that was put out by the Oakland County Sheriff's Office was 4 to 6 injured. But again, police sources telling me they don't have a good grasp on how many injured at this point. It could be more. And as I said, as you imagine, just total chaos trying to organize and orchestrate this whole entire thing. So I don't know that we'll have numbers and conditions anytime soon, as again, the main priority is to get the kids and the staff safely out of the school, which it looks like it's happened, and get all attention to anybody that's injured.
You've covered many, as you mentioned, the school drills, the drills that happen inside, where there's a preparation plan in place that says, look, if you hear about an active shooter, these are the things you got to do.
Stan Odie, I agree.
It
seems like this will always happen.
Dad that you talked to, I'm sure his child hiding underneath the desk. That is the safest place for these students. And likely at this time, we don't know that all of them that have been evacuated, if there are any still in that room, but that is the scariest situation for them, with their cell phones in hand, trying to communicate with the outside world while they're hiding under a desk from a shooter inside.
Damn.
Yeah, absolutely. And this parent, thankful, he held his cell phone and just said, thank you that I was able to communicate with my student. But again, even on the drive here, we've covered so many of these false alarms and these drills, but this is absolutely for real. This is what the schools practice for. It's what the first responders practice for, but just such a tragedy and a different feeling with this situation. It is very real, and you can just see by the response how real it is, again, just police, ambulances racing down Lapeer Road from all over the county, all over the Tri-County area, trying to help, trying to assist in some way.
Fuck public schools, man. That shit scares me endlessly,
I'm
too.
thinking right now about all of the parents that just have so many questions, just want to be reunited. And again, these things take time for that to happen.
Yeah, Jessica, I know you posted a note on our inner office memo here that, of course, we're all following each other with the updates.
That's what we do.
The one thing I wanted to ask you...
I'm sorry, Roop.
Yeah. I heard that too.
One more time, Roop. I'm sorry.
That's okay, Jess. I know you're listening to a lot and dealing with a lot out there. One thing that you posted,
motherfuckers acting wild out back.
Fox 2 was
fucking news.
An initial search inside the school, and now they're about to do a secondary search. That's what they're doing right now. Kind of lay out the land for us in terms of those searches. You got the initial one, and now the secondary one that's happening as we speak.
Yeah, you have that initial response, which you can imagine. Those are the drills. That's what the law enforcement, they practice for, those active shooter drills. And it's triaging the situation at first, getting most injured. Well, first of all, getting the suspect or suspects in custody. They have one in custody. They do not believe there are any other outstanding suspects.
Eric, I bet that was crazy.
Handgun in custody. And at that point, it's triaging the injured. Once things have calmed down a little bit, the Undersheriff Mike McCabe, who has been in law enforcement 44 years. He's the one kind of heading up the information that gets facilitated to us. He said they then did a secondary search of the school to make sure that there weren't any other students or staff in hiding, because that's what you do, right? You hide, you try to go to safety. So they're searching those closets, backs of rooms, corners to see if there's anybody else in the school that requires medical treatment. And that's the phase that we're in right now. At last check, about 25 minutes ago with the undersheriff.
Yeah, and those drills have changed over the years, haven't they? I mean, Columbine back in '98, we know that at first it was, stop, freeze, be quiet. And through the course of many years and through the refinement of the trainings, we've heard from law enforcement that there is also kind of an option to yell and to make noise and to make sure that you distract the shooter as much as possible. It is just such a sad thing to have to watch these drills be put into place for real this time.
That's fucking nuts. Well, hello guys. Welcome to the Merc Radio Talk Show. We're back. Hello Deb. Hello Justin. I had to pop out of here and restart the show from fresh, I guess.
So what happened?
To the stream? No fucking clue. A barrage of things, from potato-shaped ex-girlfriends to YouTube just fucking around to an outdated encoder. It could be a lot of things wrong with YouTube today. But since we're starting off fresh, that's what's going on with the Oxford high school shooting. Oh my gosh, we have a school shooting today. Unfortunate news to have to kind of pop in on, but it happened. I agree with Stan Odie, who's in the chat, kind of saying like I would be fucking freaked to have my kid in there. Eric is also saying like she had her kids in school when Sandy Hook happened and it was a fucking nightmare for her. And yeah, I couldn't imagine. It's a fear I kind of live with. You worry about kids being in public school. I worry about my kiddos being in public school. Shit's kind of freaky. But I don't know. I don't know any solution for this kind of issue. It's something I predicted would be reported on more once Trump left. I don't know why I thought that. It was just a commonality I've noticed. We get a lot of school shootings when our news isn't busy being mad at the fucking president, which is weird. It's weird that our country's like that, but is what it is. Damn. But let's hop right over real quick. Let me catch everybody back up, just for the sake of the channel, on the Ghislaine Maxwell news, right? So I've been updating the New York Post, who's covering the trial live. We had testimony, a cross-examination from the pilot. The pilot says he was showered in gifts by Epstein. He was given 40 acres of land on his ranch in Mexico or something. He had automobiles in his name that Epstein bought that he kept at a Florida mansion just for the staff to drive around and have fun in. you know, Epstein, it was obvious the pilot was one of many yes men. And by yes men, I mean somebody who you kind of keep around on your staff to just say fucking yes and never question what you do and always turn a blind eye to the bad shit that you've done. He says on fucking stand that he never saw any of the kids on that plane without their parents, which I think we can all agree is fucking bullshit. I don't think any of us think that he's telling the truth in that. Then you have the testimony of Jane, our first unidentified, you know, we use a pseudonym because the things that happened to her were happened to her when she was a minor. And she had a lot to say. She even brought up Bill Clinton in her testimony. She says that she met him when he was in like the 8th, 9th grade, and Epstein was a sexual predator at her. And the person, the prosecuting attorney asked Jane on the stand, who did you see most frequently while you were being sexually abused by Mr. Epstein? And she said, Ghislaine Maxwell. So that Rich, yeah, you know, a lot of people think that, but you know, we're at least on day 2 and Ghislaine's still alive. So hopefully we can get some testimony. Unfortunately, Epstein's one of those people I wish was still alive so we could maybe figure out what the fuck happened. I wish we could have seen his trial play out. I don't buy the defense's story here that this is that Ghislaine's a fucking scapegoat. Like, that's nonsense. That's some old nonsense. And I just no. I have pulled up here in Discord some of the portraits from today, taken from inside of the court. And let's see here. Let's go to our most recent update. We had the pilot said at one point he was asked if he would have seen anything like that or had any suspicion that Epstein was a sexual predator while on the flights that he was flying. He said, I would have quit my job. Which, I don't know, man. You would have quit the 40 acres. You would have quit the sports cars. You would have quit the this and that you signed yourself up into. I don't buy this pilot's testimony one bit. Yeah. So all we really have updates on right now is the accuser describing her first meeting with Epstein, which Jane says the first meeting with Epstein and Ghislaine was while she was at Camp Interlochen in Michigan in the summer of 1994 between 7th and 8th grade. If any murky out there is from that area or has gone to Camp Interlochen or remembers anything about Camp Interlochen from the 90s or that area from the 90s, please let me know why the fuck wealthy people would be there. Why the fuck are there wealthy people scouting out fucking girls' camps there? That's weird as shit to me. Like, that's... Like, why was this girl in an environment that could... Why was a summer camp that environment? How did that happen? Did they fund the summer camp or some shit? Like, I'd love more details specifically on Camp Interlochen and why Maxwell was there and able to get there and get access to those kids. Because that's supposed to be a safe place. I mean, I know a lot of friends who went to summer camps as kids, so that shit's bizarre to me. But just a reminder to everybody, I've got the Discord open. We're rolling. Discord's running. Pop on in and chit chat. I had to kind of stop a conversation earlier midstream and start a new stream, so we gotta catch everybody back up to what the fuck we were talking about. But I'm still waiting on more details on Ghislaine. We had some brief updates from Erica. She had showed me through Discord on screen share one plane flying a really tight circle around the Wells property, around the Summer Wells property, or the Don Wells and Candace Wells property. And they said it was based off of information they got from cell phones, like a triangulation of like where they were when they were using their cell phones. But
I put a video from, it was WHLA or something, about that search.
Oh, about the search?
Yeah, I put it in Discord, in general news.
Oh, in general news? Oh yeah, let me see if I can pull that up real quick. There we go.
It was posted a few hours ago.
Oh, yeah, let's get this sucker pulled up here. Hold up.
Is breaking.
Hold up here.
I wonder if they're just like, I don't know.
Is breaking news.
This
from
whole
News
thing
Channel.
confuses me.
It's a pretty weird one.
Breaking news at noon. Investigators back in the Beach Creek community of Hawkins County to resume on-ground search efforts for Summer Wells. Family members say the missing 5-year-old was last seen June 15th at their home on Ben Hill Road. The Tennessee Bureau of Investigation statewide Amber Alert remains active this afternoon. News Channel 11's Bianca Moret joins us live from Beach Creek area of Hawkins County. Bianca, the original command center was demobilized in late June. Why has law enforcement returned to the area now?
Well, Casey,
We got the
several law
transition in the music
enforcement
still.
agencies are back here in Beach Creek, but this time it's for what they call a planned search. Now we're told search crews are taking advantage of the colder weather to focus on overgrown areas that were previously a little bit more difficult to access due to high grass and heavy foliage. This morning I saw TBI agents, Hawkins County Sheriff's deputies, Kingsport Police, Churchill and Hawkins County Rescue Squad out here. From what we were able to see today, crews are searching both the ground and they took to the skies with a drone in the search for Summer. The TBI did emphasize today that there have been no new developments in this case, but this was just the next step in the investigation.
How is
Live
that
in
the
Beach
next
Creek,
step
Bianca Moret, News
months
Channel
later?
11.
Yeah, no.
Bianca, thank you very much. The TBI is asking for credible tips to help find Summer. Just call one.
What? Dude, I don't trust the TBI's
There's a
ability to
reporter.
find a fucking kid. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah, there
That's
was a
so-
reporter that was down there and telling someone that they were talking about cell phone data. So, I don't know. She's
They have to have something then.
a
I wonder.
reliable reporter, but I could get her name. But I mean, at this point, I guess the foliage thing makes sense, but they're not going to spend that much money. Like, I'm sorry.
No, not on. Well, see, I felt that way about Brian Laundrie Tours. Like, they're not gonna spend that much money on shit. But fuck, I don't know.
Yeah,
This
but they knew
county-
he was there. Like, they really knew he was there.
That's true. Yeah. They must know. I mean,
No.
they gotta have something. They gotta have some kind of idea something happened. Oh, you're right. I don't know. Fuck. Maybe I am
a
off
lot
the
of us-
side of like she was trafficked. Maybe something did happen on that property.
A lot of us don't put a lot of faith in them.
Yeah.
But, like, it takes time. Like, it's not like in the movies. You're not going to walk 5 feet and fucking find somebody. Like,
Yeah. Oh. No.
like the very first day I heard about it, and it was maybe like a quick 2 sentences on the news, I thought to myself, oh my God, someone killed her and threw her down a well. And I don't know why I thought that, because I didn't know anything about it.
Yeah.
But
I wonder if they were wait until right by the first of the month to just fucking tweak or stress those two.
now I'm all like, there's so much out there.
Part of me still thinks maybe this is a squeeze down on him to get him to confess to something. Like, hey, you guys know what fucking happened. Like, Don or Candace, one of them or both of them fucking know what fucking happened. Yeah, Arianthi, there was another school shooting, unfortunately.
I'm super curious to know what the boys said. Like, if they were just like playing in the living room and they didn't notice someone grab her out the back door, then they didn't notice. I don't know. Like, sometimes my kids play separately. So, like,
oh yeah,
they'll be like, oh, where's Jordan? And I'm like, oh, she went to her friend's house. And they're like, oh, she did. Like, they don't even notice that they left sometimes.
Don't necessarily bat an eye, don't even think about it. Yeah, like
Yeah.
they have their own shit going on. So yeah, for sure.
Sometimes.
Man, why am I not surprised there was a school shooting today? Not expectant, just not surprised. Exactly, special guest. I felt the same kind of way where this is tragic news, but our news cycle is cluttered with it when the news cycle isn't cluttered with bashing a president. So it's fucking weird. It's weird how, like,
I will say though,
oh yes,
like in my experience with public schools, they do not help the kids enough. So I'm not saying, okay, if you're bullied, like, I understand why you're doing this, but I can empathize with the child being overwhelmed enough by social interactions that, like,
I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
okay, perfect.
Yeah, no, I totally get it.
I don't want to like condone it, but being on one side of it, I can certainly understand the mindset of a young person who is not emotionally equipped to handle that stuff without adults' help, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
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 But I'm not condoning it. You know, it's a perfect storm. It's like parents don't have their back, the school doesn't have their back, they're socially outcast, whatever. You know what I mean? It's got to be like a perfect storm.
Yeah, there's no... Yeah, exactly.
Because I basically had to threaten the school with like a lawsuit and a whole bunch of bullshit to get my kid moved. And it took a year and a half. That's ridiculous. And they were like stabbing her with pencils and cutting her hair. And they called it peer conflict, not bullying. And I'm telling you, boy, was it a fight.
Damn.
That happened with my kid. He only went to public school for kindergarten and then half of first grade. And in first grade, there was a kid that was like spitting on him and cutting his shirt and cutting his shoelace. And I went to the school about it and they were like, well, you know, boys. They're going to be boys. And I'm like, oh, fuck off.
Yeah, fuck off with that. Yeah, and Arkansas is kind of bad about that, where it's like, boys will be boys. They fight. It's like, no, you need to do something about it. You can't just... No, you're right. I agree with that. They don't do enough to protect. And that kind of goes back to what Special Guest was saying. Like, it needs to be easier. There doesn't necessarily need to be, like, you know, federal regulation or even state regulation on if how you school your fucking kid, you know?
I was told by a dean and a police officer that my child needed to be a better victim.
The fuck?
Yeah, verbatim. And so I like almost flipped the desk. I like almost flipped it over on them. And they were just like, no, it's a police terminology with like, we're just saying if they say something to her, we want her to walk away and not participate, be a better victim. And I was like, that's not what you said. I lost my mind.
Good.
Be a better victim. I was like, are you fucking serious right now?
Yeah, especially, it's like, again, that's what I was saying. Like, see, it goes back to what Special Guest is. That's often why public school is horrible. And public school is horrible for a lot of people. I have I had a pretty decent experience, I guess. Like, I could have had, a worse time. Oh shit, hold on. We got some updates in the Ghislaine Maxwell trial. The victim describes alleged SA by Epstein and Maxwell. The first accuser to take stand, identified as Jane, described how Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein abused her over a number of years, starting in 1994 when she was 14 years old. In one instance, she said Maxwell and Epstein brought her up a staircase into Epstein's bedroom at his Palm Beach mansion and started undressing. They moved me over to the bed and took their clothes off. They started to sort of like fondle each other, Jane said, adding that they casually giggled about it. They asked me to take off my top, then there were hands everywhere, she said.
Yeah, so she's a willing fucking participant.
She was a willing participant. She also got off on this shit just as much as Epstein, in my opinion.
Also, like, sometimes girls are more comfortable with girls, so I think she used that to her advantage.
Yeah, she definitely did. I definitely did.
Like, back in the day, I remember going to like strip clubs and the girls would talk to me more than the guys that I was there with. And they're like, oh, we're just more comfortable with you. Like, that is definitely a thing.
Oh, yeah. Well, and that's, and the fact that it turned into this kind of like folie à deux, like they're both fucking crazy pedophiles is wild. Like,
but I wonder why she's like that.
Well, the speculation and we had somebody yesterday pop into the chat with some QAnon stuff. He was talking about some frizzle drop shit or some shit, like some fucking a supposed video of Hillary Clinton and another friend of hers doing some pretty bad like cutting a girl's face off, like, and abusing her and doing this kind of like, if you could imagine what they're doing, but with like a homicidal edge to it. the more I looked into it, the more there's no actual video to see. There's just people talking about having seen a video. Yeah, so that is what it is. But that's just kind of like, look, where there's smoke, there's fire sometimes. And are the elites of the United States in particular, are they sexual deviants normally? Like, are they a group of sexual deviants like the majority of the wealth in the nation? Maybe. I've definitely seen some stuff that makes me think that some politicians are. That there's a certain sect of politicians like Podesta and people like that who just don't seem right. There's just something that just seems off.
Lump everybody broad.
Yeah.
And like sometimes I'm like, well, maybe it's one of those situations where like you wouldn't do it if you were alone, but you're like in a group situation.
Oh yeah. Hey, in every institution there's cowboys.
Yeah. I think that's what I'm trying to.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe that's what my mind wants me to think, just so that I don't think there's that many depraved people in the world.
Yeah.
But like, if someone's like, oh, let's go steal from 7-Eleven when you're a teen.
Yeah.
Most of the kids in the group are going to go along with it because they're in a group, but they wouldn't do that alone. I know it's two totally different things, but that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, but hey, I mean, look, there's got to be smoke. There'll be fire where there's smoke sometimes, baby. And all of this kind of like smoke about how deviant the pedophiles are, like how deviant these pedophile elites might be. There must be some kind of faction of them. And look, those logs that we read, those flight logs, read like there's a group of people coordinated doing some deviant shit.
Somebody should do see if they can find a connection between them, whether they're business partners or that would be interesting.
I mean, you kind of can. It was the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, and the Kochs.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, you're talking about, dude, there's people flying those planes that, I mean, name an organization of elites, because these people are members of it. Now, it's not these groups in their entirety, so again, maybe it's factions within factions, but like, you have they just don't let anybody in. Well, there was a majority of the Bilderberger group from the early 2000s on those logs.
Say what now?
The Bilderberger group. The Bilderberger group. Special guest, do you care to explain?
I wouldn't say necessarily the Bilderberger group, but that's what we're going to talk about this week, which is about as close to Epstein as I really want to get on the show. I don't like to get past the 80s for the most part, because I think that's to sound like a paranoid person, I think that's the least likely chance of me getting shot in the face. But I think that's this week's show is going to be a fucking bummer. It won't be that long. It's going to be real info dense, and it's going to be a fucking bummer. So sorry, but that's the topic of the day because of this trial. And they had history of this occurring associated with a group called PIE, which is like a British NAMBLA. It was called the Pedophile Information Exchange. It was associated with the guy who created Chick magazine, and then in the 70s put out Lolita magazine, which was child pornography. It was absolutely not trying to hide it, and put out in every country where that was legal.
Oof.
Yeah, there's a lot. I was doing a little research, so I'll be glad to join you guys' tattered map. But there's a lot of countries that it was legal.
Yeah,
absolutely, especially all throughout Eastern Europe and everything. It was legal in that it was socially gross, but they didn't have laws about it.
Yeah,
correct.
Yeah, there was
they had like a hub, like this. I forget the name of it. I'll look it up.
Because it's illegal in other places, right? You immediately get a mechanism of, through smuggling, being able to make money.
Yeah.
The same people who printed it could sell it in one country, sell a bunch of them to their own smugglers who bring it over to a country where it's illegal and sells for 10 times the price.
Yeah, they
can put legal ads in the back and create networks through the magazine ads in the back, which is what the PIE did.
Yeah.
He was special. He was out of Australia, but you could even order movies and have them sent to your home.
Jesus.
I'll look it up. I'll send you a link in case it comes up on the discussion.
That shit's all a nightmare to me. And the big part is because I would say, without being rah-rah America, I guess the culture I was raised in did a pretty good time, at least during the time I was raised forward, and being like, no, that's fucking horrible. You know? And it seems a lot of other cultures didn't.
Well, you would upload.
I'm not trying to be a cultural elitist there, but it seems like where that's not something that's made explicitly outlawed, it seems to fucking flourish.
Yeah.
I guess it was really hard to get like on the website, like to become a member, and then you had to have like, I don't know, we'll just pretend the number's like 10 videos a week uploaded. And you had to like
keep a
have
ratio.
Oh Jesus!
Yeah,
so
you
this
keep
was
a
in
ratio.
the era of the internet.
Yeah, this is within the era of like torrents and shit. It sounds like you had to keep an upload and download ratio.
Well, there used to be a thing on even in the like 90s you could probably do on bulletin boards because they would do upload-download ratios to keep you so you'd have access. But no, like what I'm talking about is basically taking place 81 through 88. Like, I mean, some of the stuff's taking place before that, obviously. Like the furthest I'll probably ever go, and I'm sort of even worried about that, would be like the Dutroux affair in Belgium, because I wouldn't be surprised if a person dug long enough on Dutroux if they would find like John Maxwell links.
Yeah. I mean, you probably. I mean, look, man, if you smuggled some shit out of the UK, you might have some John Maxwell links if it was in the 80s or before. Like,
yeah.
I mean, that dude seemed to be. He took Epstein on as a protege, and not a lot of people talk about that because of John Maxwell's connection to the House of Lords. But
yeah.
I mean, that's my theory. Is that's where William Tyrrell went. I think these people are selling kids.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It seems like that has been happening, and I think one of the reasons that nobody in America bought it is because a lot of people in the UK are well aware of the two dossiers that I can never remember the names of them. One's the Castle dossier, and the other one's a name. It doesn't stick with me.
Fuck! I almost remember because we talked about it yesterday. But yes, yeah.
They're both important British politicians who seem to have stumbled across folks who were operating as always, with part of these fucking stay-behind networks, where they'd hooked up with criminals that could, do assassinations or kidnappings or any of that stuff that they might need. And a big part of it was creating blackmail operations on foreign dignitaries. There's something we watched the other day was the Writer with No Hands. And it sort of goes into this, assuming that Ferdinand Marcos was doing it in not Nicaragua, Panama. Ah, man. Yeah, once again, this is why I need references. I was raised in Mississippi, and my world geography is terrible.
I watched the documentary that you put in Discord on that. That was quite interesting.
Yes. And it just, for me, it's any specifics of that aside, the concept that people are running blackmail for like operations like that. Well, when you talked about how they had that whole island wired for sound and video, sounds like the culmination of understanding how to operate one of those operations.
Yeah.
Now, what is special guest theory on like? I don't want to offend anybody, but like religion being involved in that in some way, because we know that, a lot of churches have misconduct. Do you think they're connected or they're completely different sectors?
I've been studying, what's his name? Gorham, whatever. The guy who was the 4-year-old preacher. Mm-hmm. And then he got out of the preaching game on a documentary that won him an Academy Award. Mm-hmm. And pivoted that into an acting career. This goes back to this weird theory I'm sort of half making about John Huston. But anyway, I believe that all sorts of different, like, it's not innate in the church, but it's innate in people who are religious, which is probably most people, that they've come up with structures, like psychological structures, linguistic structures through neurolinguistic programming that have consistent results for building up a cult. And so they can co-opt a cult, and they do better to co-opt a cult instead of making something just show up out of nowhere, because it already has a sense of authenticity. So, and when I say a cult, that can even be a weird little backwater church.
I'm only saying it because my brain goes to Summer Wells and all those weird people. I don't know.
It's almost like a rogue faction or something that's like controlled through this repugnant ideology. It's like not just a cowboy branch, a fucking controlled, crazy.
Yeah. Well, it's not always this.
Are
Like,
they
it can
related?
just be the church.
Like, are they involved with the elite? Like, do they know and like pay for the church, or are they just completely separately, independently doing?
I think that both of them happens, but when they're involved.
Mm-hmm. Oh man.
Nope, cut out on this.
They rarely, when they're involved, they rarely actually.
Word.
Like that flow of information is one way, I believe.
What did he say?
Well, do you mind repeating yourself a little bit, special guest?
Well, I was going to say that, like, if the cult knows anything about it, right, they've probably been given misinformation, right? You know, this is like the CIA co-opting of a somewhat socialist group in the 70s who think they're working for the KGB.
Yeah.
You know, so they don't know who they're actually involved with, even if they have some suspicion that they're working with a secret group.
Okay.
Yeah.
The flow of information goes one way. Yeah, and this is intelligence security, right? Operational security. It's designed so if they fail, there's the least amount of connections to the people involved.
Probably why
makes
everyone
sense.
gets away with it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
You know, but that's not to say that it's always like an intelligence group. Like, it can, I'm sure, just brew up on its own. And in fact, I'd say observing that having happened is how they weaponized it for intelligence.
Yeah. Like having actually, observed that pattern in anthropologically speaking. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Exactly. They did an anthropological study, figured out it was replicable, and figured out how to weaponize the effect.
Yeah. Now we have these weird American culture has a weird quilt of like culty weird shit all across it.
Oh, it has. It always has, man. We've always been whether it's the Mormon Church suddenly showing up based on hidden revelation, or the Scientologists suddenly showing up based on hidden revelation, or any of those groups, even the Freemasons. Basically, and Albert Pike in Arkansas in the 1860s, based on hidden revelation.
Yep.
Like, we're all about that, and it's because that's sort of the fundamental structure of all Old Testament based religions.
Yes.
I was talking about this earlier. Like, nominally, like you don't, to my mind, and I guess it's not like, if we're talking about their own admitted logic. Not what they believe about themselves, but their own admitted logic. You don't see that many people who would meet the logic that Christians say they hold to themselves, which, if you look at their history, is going to be one that actually rejects everything about the Old Testament.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, basically what you see in U.S. civil religion is a weird interpretation of the Old Testament that gives you a bunch of outs when you need it by praying to Jesus from the New Testament.
Yeah, if you kind of meditate on how Christianity ended up in the Anglosphere and in the West to begin with, it is kind of this same model of like a big empire collapse and then stay behind groups who inherited the earth, and the Christians inherited the earth. Like, in the West
I think
anyway.
that's why they use cults for that model, is that through anthropological study of history, they figured out who survives.
Yeah.
And it's extremist fanatics.
Yeah. And what's everybody's end goal? It's to, like, let's use English history as an example. Like, the early Anglo-Saxons, the goal was to be the Breton Walda again, be the king of all of Britannia, be the emperor. You know what I mean? Like, actually conquer the whole fucking shebang and be the head of culture, majesty, and religion. You know what I mean? Like, you report to the fucking Pope only. Like,
it's sort of the ultimate end goal of all warlordism.
Yeah, and it is, when you think about it, it's in the Anglosphere and in the West, it's how we work. But it kind of goes back to, our first really written example of it is the fall of, it's the Roman Empire, the first big fall of the Roman Empire. Where we basically, if you look at the history of written word, that's kind of what happens. That's how Christianity and all these Eastern things end up in the West. It just can't handle me talking today, dude.
Oh, did you just drop again?
Again. I don't know what's fucking going on with the streams.
Well, it is Tuesday.
Maybe they don't like. Maybe they don't like the subject matter.
I guess. I don't know.
Feels like it.
Me.
Yeah.
Hey, did you guys ever see a show on HBO that this dude I know, Robert Wuerl from Batman, he did a show called Assume the Position, where he goes in as a teacher in a college class and he proceeds to explain to you how some of these things that we just think is history was bullshit. Like, for example, Paul Revere's ride was actually done by a guy named Israel Bissell.
Oh.
True story. And, well, according to his stories, and he tells a few things like that. And, you know, it's just interesting stuff. He goes, you know, when the lies become the truth, you know, print the story, you know, the lies, you know. And that's one thing they didn't think it was. Israel Bissell wasn't a real photogenic guy. He wasn't any kind of Brad Pitt. So they wanted a younger, hipper, you know, guy. So they pinned it on Paul Revere.
Okay.
Isn't that wild?
That's fucking wild.
There's all kinds of shit like that, John. My kids would come home and tell me something, and I'd be like, that's not even true. Like, it just depends on the Board of Education, like, who we have, you know, in politics at the time is what they teach, and it's sickening.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't know till I saw the movie with, there was 2 Columbus movies came out about the same time, just before I moved to Florida. And there was one with Tom Selleck, and there was one with that English, I mean that French guy, Depardieu, and one had Sean Young as the Queen. Well, either way, one was called 1492, I believe, and the other one was just called like Columbus. Came out at the same time, so I went to see the one of them. I think it had Brando in it or something. And interesting, but the thing that was amazing about it was they actually painted this portrait of Columbus getting there. He said, listen, I'm going to run back and tell everybody it's legit. You guys hold down the fort here till I get back. And according to the history, they say that the guys held down the fort by raping everybody and killing everybody, you know, stealing from the Indians and all this stuff, you know, and that's just the way it was. It was like a massacre and enslaving them and treating them like shit. By the time Columbus got back, most of those guys had been taken out because the Indians set enough of this shit. And you know, I was like, wow, that's when it went down, huh? They always make you look all happy. And, you know, they sat out and they had a meal together and everybody, you know, smoked the peace pipe and everything. Not like that.
Dude, it was so weird, the conflation between the Columbus story and the Pilgrim story that I was taught as a kid, man. Like, they all but intertwined them when they're 200 years apart, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Pocahontas was 12. Okay.
Yeah.
Talk about Jeffrey Epstein.
Like that.
It was Captain Epstein at that time. You know?
And they make it like bizarre. He willingly went with him, but he definitely took her.
And she got to England and died of a disease because she wasn't used to all the germs running around over there.
Mm-hmm.
Damn.
Just all kinds of that stuff.
It's not quite the Walt Disney cartoon version, you know?
My kids used to come home and I'd be like, what are you talking about?
It's like, speaking of Disney, the original fairy tales that some of the classic cartoons are based on, I always thought it was fascinating, and I made sure I took a look at it. The original Cinderella, those fucking stepsisters cut their toes off so they can try to jam their fucking...
Yeah, so I bought that book for Arianthony for Christmas. She wanted the Grimm's fairy tales. So I was like,
I love that stuff. Love that stuff.
They were really using Walt Disney as like the propaganda arm of Hollywood in a real sense. Disney was so tied to our propaganda effort even in World War II. You know, and Disney Studios were the people to work with. Then people like Disney almost wants to have erased their like post-animation boom, pre-home video era, like all the all the live-action movies that they made, like with Kurt Russell as a kid, you know, and that's some bizarre cultural shit too, man. Yeah. Like that's something that. Yeah, exactly. That's stuff that you would occasionally see a little bit of when I was a kid on VHS and Beta because it was that old. But not really by the time the 90s rolled around. That shit was gone.
Yeah.
Well, they re-released they re-released Song of the South all the way up through the 70s. You know, they
No,
released it a
no,
few times.
and let me tell you, that's the first Disney movie I saw in theaters when they brought it back in the 80s.
Yeah.
Like, so that should give you, like, first off, I was a little kid from the South, and it was one of the few bits of Southern representation I saw. So, of course, in my heart, I love that movie. On the other hand, holy shit, man. What? You can't be saying that they're not allowed to be friends at the end? But, you know, that was on par with every other bummer they were trying to make kids accept, too. Like Secret of NIMH, Watership Down, or every other animated fucking horror movie they put out for kids.
Yeah.
Hell, even The Dark Crystal, another movie I love, is
My
fucking
daughter
highly
watched
disturbing.
Yeah.
The Secret of NIMH. She was watching it and she came running out of the living room like scared out of her mind. And
I bet. I would have told you to, like, had I known, I would have said you should probably watch that movie with her, because there's a lot of subtextual stuff associated with it that will terrify a child.
yeah.
I found a video the other day that I just about had to come apart from that is probably my earliest memory. It's from a guy who goes by the name J.P. Somersalter. It's on the Chicago Institute of Art webpage. He put it out in like 74, 76. It's called Spooky Booze and Room Noodles.
Oh,
and it's
yeah, I saw it.
dude, and everybody, if you look on the YouTube thing who says it, says, yes, this also traumatized the shit out of me. Well, man, we could go through and I can explain as a hypnotist how it is a hypnotic induction that's designed to take all of the types of imagery that a small child would associate with fear and put a ton of fear in them.
Yeah.
Under the guise of teaching them to cope with it.
Yeah. Oh, real quick from Mary Anthony in the chat. She says, John, my love, we prefer to be called native. Indian is offensive. I'm not upset. I just love you and saving you an ass whooping. Heart, heart, heart. So.
Well, I'm lucky obliged. Sorry.
You're good.
You'll find people of different opinion on that, but it's probably the smart thing to err on the side of saying native for certain.
Normally when I say Indian, I'm talking about from India because that's most of my experience with, you know, people who are referred to as Indian are actual people from India. So I don't know.
Speaking film though, and you just mentioned like scaring the shit out of you, or making you really uptight, guys. I was like 73, 70, it would have been 74, little kid. We lived in Chevy Chase, Maryland, and my mom and dad walked to a theater and down the street in Georgetown, and they went in. They took me. And I guess because I'm not going to make a lot of noise, and I'm not really going to pay attention. And what they were watching, I still had memories of, and I had to ask my buddy who was the advertising director of all the theaters around in Virginia. I said, "Do you know what this is?" And all I could remember was some fleeting glimpses of, get this, nuns and priests, okay, or nuns and monks or something, and the guys that wear those long beak-looking things that are like doctors back in the day. Yeah. You know what I'm talking about? It's like a gas mask. It looks like a bird, okay?
Yeah, plague doctor mask.
And they were throwing dead people in a big pile, okay? And I was like, I don't remember what it was, but I know it wasn't supposed to be there, but my parents just took me because it was a babysitter. Turns out it was something called, I don't know the pronunciation, but the Decameron or something. And it was called like the nuns, basically. And he said to me, my buddy goes, "What the hell were you doing in that movie with your?" I said, "Well, my parents were laid back, man, and they figured I wouldn't pay attention." And I didn't pay attention, but somehow these images got ingrained in my head. And I never found out any other information about the movies. But man, that creeped me out, especially as a little kid.
It upset me to watch it now. Though I remember it being comforting as a kid, but like I said, I nearly had an overwhelming come apart watching it. I threw my drink across the room. Like I was upset. I was very upset for reasons that I could only explain in that I felt highly manipulated and somewhat understanding of motive. It felt like because this film's my earliest memory. Like I really don't remember anything before this, honestly.
Damn.
Yeah, it's something that it's obvious that the people making it were aware of what would happen based on literature I have read from that era. you know. And there's another film on there called The Silverfisher King that's even more surreal, bizarre, and upsetting to me, you know. And I'd say, hey, y'all don't have this personal association with it. You should check it out. They're both only like 5-7 minutes each. Give me some feedback. Tell me if I'm just having a personal flip out. But it's bizarre. Like, I think even that is something you could agree with.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, the movies they used to show us in school. Whenever we'd see that projector being wheeled in, it was like, or even the TV later on with the VCR. But when they'd bring that stuff in, you said, "Oh, cool! Ain't gonna be any work today." And they proceeded to show us movies with. We saw one with Sonny Bono, and he was high on what do you call it? Love Boat, PCP. And then we saw one about car accidents that was pretty freaking graphic. I mean, for the time.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you know, people going through the windshield and shit. And I was like, wow, okay, I guess we get the message. This is before they ever had Dare or any of that stuff. This was just how they tried to scare you straight, you know, show you these movies of people jumping out of the window because they're on acid. And I just later on said, hey, I didn't do that. You know, but yeah, there's some weird stuff they would show you in school, and it was perfectly normal for them to do that.
I think they thought it was part of a general social behavior modification program.
Wow. That's crazy. I mean, I don't know. I at the same token, okay, you're talking about some different films and things, and I brought up Disney, but I had mentioned this before, but we had to go because something came up for you guys on your end. But there was a few movies that are considered cult classics now, and movies we grew up with, like that Netflix show, you know, and the movies that made us and all that. And I never liked any of them. I didn't care, and I got this much out before I had to leave, but I never liked when Tim Curry played the devil creature. I never liked when David Bowie played the devil type creature or whatever he was and singing a song with a little ball that would float around on his hand or whatever. Didn't care for that one. I didn't care for the Muppets where you rode on this big elephant looking guy, but they're all Muppets. Okay. I didn't like any of that. I'm not a fan of Lord of the Rings. Okay, Dune is almost to me like a Lord of the Rings with a little more high tech shit in it. So
I feel you. That's fair.
No, it's described as sci-fi fantasy.
Mm-hmm. And even Star Wars, which I love to death, and Empire is like my third favorite film of all time, after Escape from New York and Planet of the Apes. But the first Star Wars film, okay, 77. That one almost, if it hadn't been for the TIE fighters and the Darth Vader, I would have felt that was almost too fantasy for me. I just like a nice Star Trek or something like that. So when all the kids nowadays are talking, they're my age now, they're going, oh man, I remember I went to see the Goonies 4 times. And I was like, hated the Goonies. Okay, maybe I was too mature at the time, or I felt I was, or I favored myself to be. But I didn't like that one.
I think you were just into harder sci-fi. You know, growing up, I didn't like that middle ground either. I was like, give me Star Trek or give me Conan. I'm not really much of a Star Wars guy. It looks good, but I sort of get bored. You know,
Star Wars, like I say, they almost didn't do it for me, but thank God they had the TIE fighters and the stormtroopers and a lot of futuristic looking stuff and blasters and stuff. That was fine. Okay. But it was a movie like the original Dune and probably the one now where I tried to read the book. You know, I found myself in I was unfortunately detained for a while, so I had to do a lot of reading, and I read the Dune book. I read like a couple of them, and I mean, you know, as thick as a phone book, and I was just like, this is boring me out, man. I'm just not a fantasy dude. And when they made these movies by Peter Jackson, I said, oh, these are gorgeous movies. I'll give you that. The effects are incredible, but I just don't care. And they made fun of it in one of the Kevin Smith movies where dudes are arguing about Star Wars as opposed to Lord of the Rings. And the guy is like a smart ass. He goes, here's Lord of the Rings. You're walking some more. Then you throw a ring in the water and you turn around and you walk back. And I'm like, I agree with that totally. That's my impression.
Dude, that's how those movies felt with me. I don't dislike Tolkien, but he's just not my thing. Once again, I'd rather read something like Conan if I'm going to bother reading about savage, brutal times. Don't romanticize it for me. That's not really why I'm here. because it doesn't seem like those romantic views of it were representative of much, but a very small amount of those times. And that's not even counting the fact we're probably throwing magic in there to keep it interesting, you know?
Well, here's where I contradict myself, though. Okay, I don't know why. I couldn't tell you. I couldn't put my finger on a exact reason, but for some reason, the movie Excalibur, okay, that pushes all the right buttons for me. Came out around the same time, 81. Okay, and it's King Arthur and all that, and Merlin and all that stuff. I would traditionally say, well, that's totally sword and sorcery. Of course, it's definitely a sword. But yet that one is fine with me. I enjoy that one. But it's the Lords of the Rings and stuff like that. I just don't care.
I really enjoyed Excalibur when I was young. I probably haven't seen it in 20 years. What I do remember enjoying about it, because I'm old enough I can still enjoy a real slow burn movie. It doesn't have to be super actiony. That it was one of those rare cases of a movie where it's got everything that I normally am not into working against it, but the pacing and the presentation just happened to work exactly right to really draw me in and suspend my disbelief. And whoever the director of photography was made that shit feel dreamlike. You got me? That movie sort of feels dreamy, for lack of a better way, in a way that a lot of movies outside of, say, Italy in the 70s don't.
I think it's Badham. Okay, I can't remember John Badham or what. But the funny thing, like in Excalibur, the one scene that stands out to me, call me kinky, I guess, but I thought it was great when the asshole knight wants the other knight's wife. So he sends him off to battle, and he dies in a crusade. And they show him with a spear through him. Meanwhile, he has Merlin turn him into the husband. I couldn't understand, sorry.
Oh, sorry. No, Lux is headed back to work for a little bit, but there's no show tonight, so she'll probably be back at a decent hour. So.
Hey, what's up?
Well, goodbye, Lux.
Yeah, she's already bailed out the door, but she loves you all. She didn't want me to say that, so yeah.
But so in this Excalibur, so the dude goes and gets Merlin to turn him into the husband so he can go home and bang, this guy's wife. Okay, and I was like, that's ballsy. I said, that's interesting. Now you got me, and I enjoyed. Oh my God, now I can't remember. Oh, Game of Thrones. I liked that a lot because it was really smartly written. It had a lot of humor in it. Okay, and it's black humor, but it was still humor. And that would usually be totally not my thing because all the dragons and shit, but I enjoyed it.
Angel always puts it that she doesn't really enjoy stuff set in an era without plumbing, but I turned her on to Game of Thrones. But I'll tell you, I really only like the first 4 seasons.
Yeah,
like once they run out of source material, I'm not into that show anymore.
It sucks after, like you can tell those writers are reaching, and the quality drops off. Like that's not even me being a book nerd.
I really enjoy like Bronn. I will say this: like everybody had their guy in that show, right? And my guy won because Bronn's my guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you see, I know
if anybody won Game of Thrones, it's Bronn.
Yeah.
I know so little about the source material that I couldn't have told you where the real material stopped and the extra stuff they created started from. So that wasn't the issue. It was just like there's a movie with Sean Connery doing the voice of a dragon, right? Where he goes, "I am the
yeah, Dragonheart."
Yeah, and I didn't care for that at all. That was totally not my cup of tea. Okay, but on the other hand, okay, the last couple of Star Wars movies, even though it still had the TIE fighters, of course, and it still had blasters and everything, the stuff with the chick named Rey, I still felt that was too Lord of the Rings, too fantasy, too Dune. You know what I mean? So they lost me.
I can't tell you why I didn't like those movies and I liked Rogue One. But man, I really preferred Rogue One. And I understand there was a fair amount of fan service, but it really, to me, still, despite that, felt like its own damn movie.
Well, also another one that's a cult classic now, and they even made that sequel, which I thought was long and boring, is Blade Runner. Okay, now I saw Blade Runner 2 or 3 times back at the day because I was running a projector for that too, and I just was like, oh my God, not again. You know, to me, it was just long and drawn out with some beautiful, beautiful shots in it. Okay, miniatures and the neon.
Did your version have narration? Do you remember?
You know what? I've seen it both ways. I don't remember which one played in the theater.
The first version, like I didn't see it in theater.
The McConaughey Dragon movie, Reign of Fire. Sorry, A.T. Garden brought it up in the chat.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a pretty good one. That's pretty. I liked it. It's weird.
But see, that goes right under the heading of movies that just me, like I say, just me, that I just is not my cup of tea.
Yeah. No, I like sci-fi fantasy. I eat that shit up. I like legacy shit. I like fantasy and I like sci-fi. So you blend them for me, I'm happy.
Did you like Ray Harryhausen stuff as a kid?
Well, I love that though because I looked at it for the models. Yeah. I knew what stop motion was. I knew all about what stop motion was by then. I already had my stack of monster magazines. I knew all about Harryhausen, and because of Forey Ackerman and Famous Monsters, they told kids who were only 12 and so on. They gave us the information, so we went to the movies and knew who Willis O'Brien was, who did King Kong, and knew who Harryhausen was, and you know, Dick Smith, who did the Exorcist makeup, and Rick Baker. We learned all that early, so I watched it already appreciating the models, like Clash of the Titans, the original one. Okay,
gotcha. No, like I fell off on liking a lot of fantasy stuff from being a kid to that era too, because you could tell that it's like, oh well, yep, this is a computer. Yeah. This is a computer.
Yeah.
Well. Even when they did actual stop motion with real models like Harryhausen did, okay, and what they call practical effects, done on the set.
Yeah.
The John Carpenter Thing movie, okay, I mentioned it here before, but they used a case of bubble gum to make the guy's neck look like it was stretching off. The head hits the floor. Spider legs pop out of the head, and it walks across the room, and this dude with a joint in his mouth goes, "You gotta be fucking kidding me." And Kurt Russell's yelling, "Torch it, torch it." And they're hitting it with flamethrowers. And I said, oh, that's incredible. All of that stuff, like The Howling and American Werewolf in London, all done on the set, okay?
Yeah.
It was all done with latex and stop motion or whatever you needed to use, radio control, animatronics like Chucky. But now, okay, like John Dykstra said, the guy who did the effects for Star Wars and a lot of other shit for ILM, he said, well, the trouble is computer effects look real but feel fake, and real effects look fake but feel real. That's the problem. And there's a movie called Time Bandits from the 80s, right?
I love that movie. That's an early movie for me. Any Terry Gilliam joint.
Yeah.
Terry Gilliam's that was right up my alley.
I was a kid, though,
Yeah.
And so that, I think in many ways that movie was very much aimed at people like me at my age, because it absolutely got me as a child, But like as an effects movie, like I don't view that's an aesthetics movie, not an effects movie.
Yeah. Oh, Cinna just fucking filled us in on some behind the scenes scoops on Game of Thrones.
Oh.
The Game of Thrones dragon tech that they used was developed on Reign of Fire. So without Reign of Fire, you don't get the Game of Thrones dragons. That's how they were able to have dragons. That's kind of cool. I didn't know that.
So it's sort of like that last Pee-wee movie that they spent like $2 million on digital facelift technology when it would have been cheaper to give them a real facelift.
Just a real facelift, yeah. Real quick, we got some.
How about that shit with Henry Clavell when
the mustache
Pictures wouldn't let him take off the mustache?
Yeah, mustache gate, baby.
So he's in Justice League with the mustache, or Batman versus whichever one, and he had the computer technology. And you know what? I'll be honest with you. I don't have that much of an eye on it. I didn't see anything abnormal.
What? It looked like shit.
Watching all the guys on YouTube, and they started homing in on it and showing it to you and putting a ring around it, pointing to it. I said, yeah, that does look a little strange.
Oh, it looks fucking horrible. But, okay, so back to Ghislaine Maxwell. We got some updates in the Ghislaine Maxwell trial. A woman testified today, Jane, just to catch everybody up. We got Jane. She goes under a pseudonym. Let's see here. We just have more details. So kind of a trigger warning ahead, guys, if you're set off by accounts, testimony of sexual assault and things like that. That's what I'm going to describe. This is a victim's testimony. So, the alleged victim, an actress identified only by the pseudonym Jane, recalled hanging out at Epstein's lavish home in the mid-1990s when she and others, including Maxwell, would abruptly be summoned to his bedroom or a massage room. What would Maxwell typically do? Assistant U.S. Attorney Allison Moe asked. She, along with others, would just start taking their clothes off. Jeffrey would get on a massage table. The woman replied, "It just turned into this orgy," she said. The witness, one of 4 alleged victims mentioned in the indictment against Maxwell, was the first accuser to take the stand at the Manhattan trial, telling jurors how she became ensnared in the depraved pair's web as a teenager and how she was repeatedly abused by them through the age of 16. "I don't know, but more than twice," the woman said, when asked how many times Maxwell was present when Epstein allegedly abused her. Another little portrait here. And then they continue. "It's hard to remember because I was abused pretty much every time I would go over to his house, and it all started to seem the same after a while." Her voice broke as she described once being called to Epstein's bedroom during a trip to New Mexico with the sick financier and Maxwell. "My heart sank in my stomach," she said, "because I didn't want to go see him." Jane said when she was 14, she met the British socialite and wealthy financier in the summer of 1994 when she was at Camp Interlochen in Michigan between 7th and 8th grade. Her composer dad had died suddenly of leukemia about 9 months earlier, and her family had lost their home. She was sitting on a bench with her friends when a tall, billowy woman came over with a Yorkshire Terrier dog, and a man soon followed. She says, "My classmates left and I was there by myself eating my ice cream, and the man sat across from me," she said. "He seemed very interested to know what I thought about the camp," adding that he was a benefactor who gave musically gifted kids scholarships. She identified the man as Epstein, the man and woman as Epstein and Maxwell. "They seemed very friendly. I thought they were a married couple. They seemed inquisitive," she continued. Back home in Palm Beach, Jane said, she and her mom invited over to Epstein's enormous house, were invited to their enormous house for tea. "It wasn't a pool house," she quipped on the stand when asked to describe Epstein's home. At the time, the accuser said she lived in a pool house with her 3 brothers and her mom, whom she shared a bed with. For months after, she wasn't living in a fucking pool house. He was trying to make them look fucking hella impoverished, and he gets off on them being down on their luck.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah. For months after, the woman said she would hang out at Epstein's home every week or 2 on average, spending time by the pool, in the kitchen, or going to the movies. She described once seeing Maxwell and other women lounging by the pool, all topless, and some of them were naked. "I was just shocked because I hadn't seen that before," the woman said. The witness said she thought Maxwell was a little bit odd and quirky, adding that older women would sometimes tease her, and that she saw her as sort of an older sister. "She would ask me what I was up to, if I had a boyfriend," she testified, recalling how Maxwell once told her about dating. "Once you F them, you can always F them again because they're grandfathered in," she said. She described how Epstein and Maxwell took her shopping, including one time to Victoria's Secret, where they bought her white cotton briefs. Epstein also started giving her cash on the visits to her home. He also began paying for voice lessons and bought her clothes and things for school. Both he and Maxwell would also brag about their famous friends, name-dropping former presidents, Donald Trump and Bill Clinton. "Initially, I felt special," she said about the attention they showered on her. "It changed when the abuse started happening. Epstein eventually sexually assaulted Jane in the pool house on the estate, where he just pulled his pants down and proceeded to masturbate on me," she testifies. "I was frozen in fear," she said. "I'd never seen a penis before." Not long after the first assault, the woman alleged that both Epstein and Maxwell molested her in his bedroom. "They moved me over to the bed and took their clothes off, and they sort of fondled each other. They started casually gigging and just stood there. Asked me to take my top off, and then it was all hands." I read that part of the article earlier. In interactions following that incident, Jane said the sick duo would lead her into a massage table, or would lead her to a massage table inside a room at the house and show her how Epstein liked to be rubbed down. During these incidents, "Did Maxwell ever touch your body?" the prosecutor asked. "Yes," the alleged victim answers. So that's kind of the end of the testimony there for now. But just so...
Didn't I tell you guys earlier, though, man, that oftentimes in the other testimony about the other cases like Michael Jackson, that parents were often brought into the deal and they gave them a sweet deal in the name of just helping you out. I feel bad for you. Let me help you with those house payments, right? Yeah. That's what they said about Jackson. And look, she said something about they were going to be homeless, and apparently Epstein helped them out. Okay, so the parents might be more inclined, as sad as it is to say, to look the other way.
Yeah.
Well, they might be in a situation where they don't have to look the other way because there's no way that they could ever believe a person who would help them out of the goodness of their own heart would do that to their child. Like they refuse to link that because it would mean that they had failed to protect their kid.
Yeah.
Oh, there's that angle also. But when I watched the one about Jackson, the HBO thing, the one guy, he ended up being like a choreographer with Britney Spears and shit, and he ended up getting pretty successful apparently. But he was saying that when he first got invited to go on some video shoot with Michael and everything, that the parents were like, "Oh, that's wonderful! You're hanging out with the king of pop." And not only that, but they were going to foreclose on their house. And he told Michael, and Michael gave them a check and paid the house off completely for them. Mm-hmm. And, so that meant that they had no problem, which they said later, when he would call at 2 a.m. and say, "Listen, I'm going to be in town tomorrow. Why don't you be ready?" And the parents like packing a bag for him. Mm-hmm. It's just sick.
I mean, there's parents being compliant with the situation. In this situation, it seems like the mother was probably unknowing and in a very vulnerable situation. I think that once they found out that the famous composer father had passed away, which again, they probably knew who this girl was before they approached her. Keep in mind, they're calling her Jane right now because she's famous. Her father was a famous composer that they're not going to say who it was. So I'm sure we could deduce and speculate, but I'm going to steer clear of that and just kind of say that they had they didn't even have to worry about the mom. They knew the mom was dealing with a whole different level of shit that had already happened. There's no fixing it.
I mean? Look, these guys have own private intelligence files, and they pay for access to what are called private intelligence agencies.
That's
for
true.
all you know, he paid for access to look up this person on Whack-In Hut saying that he was gonna potentially employ them or something, and it's like, I need what I do is super sensitive, so I need a full background check.
Full fucking background check. Asshole to the back of your teeth background check. Like, full body background check. Like, they're gonna check everything. Did you eat cottage cheese and not like it at Shoney's when you were younger? They're gonna know that happened.
Let me explain how private intelligence works, right? Like, let's say that a bunch of people involved in the FBI and CIA and shit in 1970 decide that they're going to start investing in Central America, and they want to build up hotels, so they create a group called Resorts International. And then they're like, man, we need to protect our investments. Let's hire a bunch of ex-CIA and FBI to staff a subdivision called Intertel, or International Intelligence Incorporation. And let's let it eventually get tied to even government investigations on its ties to the mafia. Until eventually Merv Griffin and Donald Trump get into a bidding war over it in the early 80s.
Yeah,
that's
dude.
How intelligence works.
That's how intelligence agencies work. Yeah, dude. And Epstein had potential, Interpol fucking hookups. Like, he could call and figure out, where your grandma's fucking grandma's from.
He could know who's looking after him, too.
That's very true. Yeah, he had such a level of observation potentially that he'd know if the feds were looking at him. We kind of know he did because of the way that he would interact with law enforcement. He's like, look, I know you're looking for me, and I'm going to turn myself in. But
exactly.
At this date, on this time.
Let me let you know when and where, because I control this situation and you know it.
Yeah,
that's interesting. I used to work for Wyndham Resorts, right, in Orlando, and I used to try to sell timeshares on the phone because they loved my voice until I couldn't sell anything, and then they got rid of me. They said, "Oh, you got a great voice for this," and then I tried it, and I just wanted to go home every night and just shower. I felt so fucking dirty trying to push timeshares on old people.
Phone sales.
Oh, it sucks, man. But on a happier note, and then I gotta go. I'm making some dinner. On a happier note, speaking of having a famous composer father, I saw an actress on an interview with like Letterman or Jay Leno or somebody, and she was talking that her father, okay, and I don't remember who it was because it's not bad. It's not a bad thing, but I just remember that she said her father is the guy who wrote the songs for these commercials. Like there was a cereal in the 70s called Freakies, and he wrote the song, "We are the Freakies, we are," and he wrote some of these famous commercial jingles, right? I mean, he just wrote them. My baloney has a first name, and that was this guy. That was this guy, and I was like, I cared more about hearing about that than I did whoever this actress was. I don't remember who the hell it was.
That's what Warren Zevon did before he got big. He was a jingle writer.
Yeah.
Oh, my favorite song, "Werewolves of London," man. Yeah.
Dude, well, like when you listen to him, like every bit of a Warren Zevon song sounds like every riff is its own jingle. Like I've talked to Merc about this.
Yeah.
Like every riff, you just hammer out that riff and move on to the next one, and every riff is its own little jingle.
Dude, and special guest turned me on to this whole thing I never even noticed about Warren Zevon before. He's every old military or special like forces or intelligence agency, like old operatives' favorite shit. Like he's their favorite jams. Like Hunter S. Thompson.
I swear he worked for him in the 70s. At least was peripherally associated enough to give him a hand.
Yeah. Or homeboy's close enough that he has like security, security clearance, and he knows stories, and he's alluding to them in songs.
Yeah,
like, there's something
he's
going on.
He's almost sort
there.
of a staff historian.
Yeah,
well, with that major piece of information, which is cool as shit, I have to say, and you're gonna go, fucking idiot, man. Didn't you hear what we said? I mean, that's intense, okay? But I just can't help but say, Kid Rock used the Werewolves of London riff in his song, where he says, "We were smoking funny things," and we
references Sweet Home Alabama, and everyone thinks it's a Sweet Home Alabama sample. Yeah, I know specifically the song you're talking about, because it drives me nuts endlessly. Nobody thinks that's Warren Zevon. Everybody thinks that's goddamn Leonard Skinner sample. And it's not. It's because he says, "I'm singing Sweet Home Alabama all summer long" or whatever in that song, and people hear that riff, and it's in a close enough key to fucking Sweet Home Alabama. It drives me nuts endlessly. I'm like,
Sweet Home Alabama.
Huh?
The first time I heard it on the radio, it came across, and the first couple notes is doom 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 doom, and I went, "Ooh, where was London?" You never hear that.
Turn that shit up, ready to go. How? Yeah, no, straight up.
Yeah, and I was like, "Oh, I like this." And then when I saw that it was, or heard that it was not Warren, I said, "Oh, that's not bad. Okay," and I liked it. But everybody I talked to who likes music didn't really dig that sampling like that. But I thought it was fantastic. Warren Zevon's great. Favorite song.
You're right. I think a lot of people get mad because so many folks think it's the other sample, as opposed to just recognizing that, hell, both of those and the breakdown in Phantom Lord by Metallica all sound like the same bit of riff.
Yeah. This might just be for the deep cut hip hop fans out there, but I'm still waiting to hear back from Kid Rock's camp. I'm trying to produce like a throwback record for him. I want him to redo Yodel in the Valley. I want him to have the kid and play hair and shit. His camp won't respond.
What's the Grit Sandwich record? I want him to do that again.
Yeah, the Grit
Sandwich. The whole thing.
The whole thing. We're gonna re-record all of his old shit.
let me give you this deep cut then. Do you remember possibly back in the it would have been the late 80s? You probably don't. You guys are too young. But there was a lady who looked like a stripper, okay, kind of pretty, and a dude who looked like the Tiger King, okay, and they did a song that it was "Baby I Love Your Way," Peter Frampton, and "Freebird," okay, and they merge them together. They start out with part of one song, and then the guy sings part of the other song, and then they sing together at the end of it. And, so you got, "Ooh, baby, I love your way. I'm a free bird now." And I was like, that's not bad, man. I mean, that was when everybody was going nuts.
Oh, man, I'm going to have to look that up.
It's an early...
It's the most industrial mashup shit I've heard in a minute.
Yeah, it's an early-ass mashup, and it actually evolved from the era of, like, late-night talk shows doing similar mashups with their bands, or, like, they'd have these, like, medleys. You know what I mean? So it's from like medley culture, which, composition speaking, it's been a thing for a long time. Sometimes your overture is functionally just a medley of the whole thing.
I love medleys.
But
for a long time, Black Sabbath survived off just medleying the choruses of their old songs.
Yeah, and
the name of the band is Will to Power. Okay.
Will to
Okay,
power.
Will to
That's
Power.
right. I was gonna say I've heard this before, and it's actually an example of one of the earliest mashups put on wax. Like
And
it
watch
is.
the.
I think
Watch
Orbital
the-
mixing a Shot to the Heart and whatever that Belinda Heaven is a Place on Earth.
Oh yeah.
You give love
Yeah.
that name and Heaven is a Place on Earth.
Oh,
Well, you know who did that a lot? Some people who did that a lot in the early 2000s was on Glee. They did a lot of these mashups in that show, you know, because it was all about musical, you know, Glee Club, and some of those were downright decent, you know. But yeah, this Will to Power, I never forgot it. It's all over the internet. You can find the video and check it out because you know they pull it off. And like I said, the dude looks like the Tiger King, but just ignore that.
Right.
And
As
the woman
80s.
looks like a bleach blonde stripper from Vegas, but they pull it off, man. You know, they're wearing spandex and leather, and they're walking around singing this song, you know, and it really works. And that Kid Rock song with the Warren Zevon really worked, and Jim Morrison with Snoop Dogg accompanying him, that really worked. You know, now that one they didn't sample. That one they just somehow Snoop added his own rap along with Riders
Yeah.
on the Storm.
Yeah, well,
And
they kind of,
worked.
they just kind of throw in some call and response shit with that. But there's, you know, my favorite kind of early example, you know, again, I'm a big hip hop fan. I love the history of hip hop. The Blondie record, where they're sampling the Doors. That's, you know,
Yeah.
kind of the
Yeah.
quintessential example of like, you know, sample culture becoming mainstream and a norm, and this is an instrument that we play, we add stuff, we pull stuff, we are paying attention to key, we're paying attention to melody, we're paying attention to rhythm. There's not a damn thing musically we're doing that any other instrument isn't doing on a sampler. And so that's something that I've really been like really growing into my own on lately, using this old SP404, like just kind of getting into the nitty gritty of its design language and how you play it, you know, because you play it like an instrument, like any other instrument.
Right.
And sometimes that's lost to some people who aren't necessarily fans of hip hop. I've noticed, like, what exactly is going on with the
because
sample?
they don't really see the equipment and they assume that it's all literally pre-programmed on a computer.
Yeah, they think you're just hitting play.
The closest they see is this same phone interface that's not as responsive.
Yeah.
Honestly, like I've seen people that can play a phone, like have a nice phone and truly can play a phone, but most people need at least the rubber pads still. You know?
Oh yeah, man.
Well, you know, I told you guys the other day about how hip my mom was at a time when she'd go to the record store and hear AC/DC doing Big Balls and Dirty Deeds and come home and say, "What is that song? It's fantastic. I like it." And I was like, "Okay, you're pretty hip," you know? So she did that, but one time I got really pissed, and it was funny because I had wanted this one album. It was actually Xanadu. As embarrassing as that is to say, but it was a great album. The movie wasn't that great, but Olivia Newton-John and ELO in this was fantastic. Okay, so I really wanted.
Hey, you don't have to make apologies for your taste.
Okay, well, I really wanted this album, and so my mom goes and
I remember
that one
watching
wasn't
that
in
when I was a
stock.
kid.
Right?
Well, she brings me back instead. Okay, Neil Diamond's The Jazz Singer score, right? And I hadn't seen the movie yet, you know, and it would just come out, and I was like, "What the fuck?" Yeah, I didn't say it to her. I just kind of was disappointed. I said, "Yeah, thanks," and I took it upstairs. I just left it. Well, it's taken me probably 30 years before I really developed a real enjoyment. Okay, and the funny thing that tipped me off on made me want to go and look up some more Neil Diamond was this movie called Lost and Found with what's his name, Dave Spade, and there's a scene in it where he's trying to get some money, a backer for his restaurant or whatever it is, and so he goes to the money guy, and he was having a party for his wife, a birthday party, and he was getting her Neil Diamond. The old lady loved Neil Diamond, but Neil doesn't show up. So Spade actually unbuttons his shirt a few buttons and puts on this like beret and goes out there and does this Brother Love's traveling show by, you know, and he's in the middle of it, and he was just going to mouth the words to the real song, and the bad guy in the movie unplugs the speaker, so now he's got to do it himself with his own voice.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I'm going to go listen to the real song.
Yeah.
And I did, and that led to something else, and that led to something else. So I went ahead and listened to The Jazz Singer and watched the movie, and I said, wow, the movie wasn't that great, but man, that's a good soundtrack.
Yeah.
That guy's fantastic.
Damn
And
straight.
I feel so
Hey,
funny.
John, go eat dinner.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I'm sorry.
What are we talking about? The jazz singer? What were we even just talking about? I got lost as shit in that story, brother. Go eat dinner.
No, it's just you'll be talking about something and I'll be trying to leave and then I'll go, oh, wait a minute, I got something to say about this.
Yeah, no, you're good, brother. I love you to death. Go eat some dinner, brother. Get that blood sugar up.
I'll be listening. If I don't talk to you again, I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.
For sure, my man. I look forward to it. I'll talk to you tomorrow, my man.
Over and out.
later.
Oh, and it's called Will to Power.
Will to Power. I remember that because it's in music history. It's like an early.
Check out Will to Power.
Yeah, you better believe special guests like probably gonna be jamming it, like hard.
Well, yeah, look for the video. It's really interesting, and it's called "Baby I Love Your Way" / Freebird. It's by Will to Power, 1987, I believe.
Hell yeah!
Catch you later.
Hey, you take it easy, John. Sorry, I had to pull the plug on the jazz. I had no clue what the fuck was happening there for me. I lost my spot. I was like, I don't know. Homeboy needs that blood sugar up. I don't know what the fuck we're talking about, but I can't stop thinking about. It's probably because I can't stop thinking about the behind the scenes life of the wealthy. This kind of look we're getting into Epstein's life. Special guest, I'm glad you're here with me for this because
Look, man, I really. Like I said, the upcoming show is going to be like me doing the top end, just stating some facts, providing y'all a bunch of links in the description so I don't have to spend too much time stating the facts. Like a half hour of me stating the facts, then we're opening the lines, because I promise you that half hour is going to be more than you wanted.
Yeah.
You need to if you think Epstein's fucked up now, you need to understand what was happening in England. And if y'all want to know what was happening in England in the 80s, I'm about to tell you. And it's going to only take about a half hour. And then we could talk about it for weeks afterward. It's going to I believe it's going to blow. It blew my mind.
Yeah.
It blew my mind. I bet it will blow your minds that much. And once again, I appreciate y'all letting me talk about this sort of shit, because I can't do anything about it, but I think maybe people should know.
It's become a crux of like the main viewership. Like this is what the Murkies are. It seems like everybody getting involved in the tattered map has become one of my favorite things in the week now. Like it really
this
has.
Epstein shit, man, is directly tied to the types of systems we're talking about. I wouldn't be saying in any way it would be disingenuous to say, oh, this is tied to my story.
Yeah.
But it is tied to the types of networks that specifically I'm talking about. And I believe, and this is to me the most insidious thing, I bet if we had a full view of it, we'd find this shit's just sort of part and parcel of how they operate in general, and he's far from the only one.
That's kind of where my mind keeps going, is like this guy is participating in something that we know is widespread, and he's organizing this kind of behavior for a lot of people. And we wondered for a long time, what the fuck are these people doing behind closed doors? We have some people that have come in hot with the adrenochrome. We have some people that come in hot with the they're trafficking the kids. Some people come in hot with the
I'm gonna tell you right now my feelings on that whole adrenochrome conspiracy.
Go off, baby. Let me know.
You might even find somebody who did that shit.
Yeah.
You might, because I wouldn't be surprised for them to engage in so much of the terrible shit that you can see, just to be like, okay, this was one instance that's not actually tied to a general structure.
Yeah, see, where there's smoke, there's fire.
That would be the thing you'd point at.
Yeah. No, totally. Like, there's got to be at least, well, look, I've gone off personally on you on how I think there's something more to the Pizzagate situation now. I think there's something sketchy going on with John Podesta. Like,
Yeah,
I think
don't know what, and I wouldn't say that I had any clue what, because libel laws are a thing, if nothing else.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it really seems like something sketchy is going on
Something's up.
If you look at...
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Well, I was going to say, if you look into like Maria Abramovich, man, like, I love art. I have no problem with performance art. I also have read enough about people who believe in the occult, and not just the more positive sides of it, that I feel that I can recognize when I see people practicing that in a thumb your nose type of way.
Yeah.
And I don't want to sound like your Q people, because I don't identify as that, and in fact I think that's more of a psychological operation.
Yeah.
But you can point to people in history who were this horrible.
Yeah.
If humans could have done it, they can still do it.
Yeah, exactly. exactly. If you can conceptualize it, you better believe it. It's probably still in play, and you're doing yourself a disservice if you're not calculating as if they are actively using those means, like, for sure. Like things like the battery, the chick that covered herself in blood, bathed in fucking blood.
Yeah, Countess Bathory, and it's not just Countess Bathory. You can see this type of behavior occurring in Nazi Germany.
That's
right
true.
up until right as the Soviets are closing in on people. You got me? Like that, amongst their still social elite, that type of shit was going on within their particular occult religion that they had put together. That I said is like I think it's fair to call it a perverted form of theosophy, but I could also say that theosophy seems to indicate this is how you should think too. So
yeah,
I'm not a theosophist. It'd be nice to talk to some theosophists about it.
Yeah, exactly. Same. I feel the same way about that. That's why I'm always so confused when it's like, well, I guess I'll classify the Nazis like an atheistic organization, but there's
now
1,000 theisms been there.
Case. Everybody's so obsessed with that last name and tying him to Israel, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's not even worry about all that. In the sense of, let's just say he's a person, regardless of his background.
Oh, yeah.
He's sure acting exactly along the lines of the types of shit that was based on that Nazi religion, right up to him trying to create a eugenics Superman.
Yeah. And that's what's weird about Epstein to me. He's obviously one of these outlying freaky cats, and that's why I wonder how many. Because when you have a hyper-focusing issue, right, sometimes people with hyper-focus issues you typically see when you profile people. You'll see you'll see deviant behaviors, things they do to unwind that are deviant, the lay person would define as deviant. And this guy is the epitome of deviant behavior, specifically to do what? To unwind. He had a girl teaching these other girls how to fucking rub him down. So I think, the methods in which these elites calm down, and it's when you say elites, it's like I'm not trying to put him in a group. It's like a person who worked hard to get where he's at. Did he do peace? Did he?
It just seems like he got rich out of nowhere by being a scumbag.
Well,
and associating with
people. By work really hard.
By
work really hard, I mean king of the grifters. You don't get into you don't trick a whole fucking university of professors into thinking you're a fucking tenure level professor without putting in some kind of something. Like, you got something special going on.
Fair. That's fair.
You got an outlying something going on. Epstein had a knack for something. You know what I'm saying? He was a grifter.
I would say maybe he had an innate talent for manipulation.
Yeah. So his, and again, that's manipulating a whole fucking university into thinking you're a fucking tenure level professor, which is where dude kind of started on the scene. That's an incredible amount of work. Is it morally right work? No. Is it would you define that as a job well done kind of work? No. He's grifting. But grifting's work. He's out there applying himself.
No, that's fair.
Yeah, he's applying himself in a negative way, but he is applying himself in a way as he rises. So he became an elite. You know what I mean? He started as not he came out of nowhere, but it's he did that. You know what I mean? There's a level of kind of work behind it, and in America you see a lot of that, and that's why I wonder how many of these people they all they see is their mission, their goal, their work, and they don't see humanity.
I think that's a whole lot of people. I think that's a whole lot of people, especially people who are as classist as it sounded like he and Ghislaine were. Yeah.
Is Epstein a monster created by a capitalist infrastructure or a monster created by just human society? Is my kind of thought sometimes.
My money's on human society, because you see people who do this sort of thing regardless of the economic model.
Yeah.
Right? One could say, what's his name? Beria in Russia, who was the head of the NSKD, the precursor to the KGB.
Yeah.
He's the short bald guy in Death of Stalin.
Yeah.
He's a prime example of that. He was a pedophile.
Well,
who was also an astounding amount of fucking power like that. Once it came out, they just shot him.
Yeah, we see
it was a power move, but they just shot him.
Well, and we see with things like the royal family, you only have so many it only takes one sketchy royal family member to corrupt that scene. right? Now he's brought in, now that one person with his rights and his entitlement and his privilege is going to bring people in who are just as corrupt as that one individual is, and that's going to outlive him. You know what I mean? Like, so even in like monarchical society, it's corruptible to every degree of elite. You know what I mean? I see what you're saying by that. Like, it's not a creature of our capitalist infrastructure. That's just a means in which he used to grift to build a platform to rise to that level of elite.
Yes. He's an example of how you can utilize capitalism to do those terrible things. I think, that's one thing. I don't recall anybody other than the most ridiculous Republican ever saying that capitalism was a utopian system.
Right? Yeah.
Like, that's the thing, is that I don't think any of us are under the implication that it's utopian.
No.
I think a lot of us are like, oh, well, utopian systems don't tend to work because in many ways any utopian system is a totalitarian system.
Yeah.
And people don't like there's always somebody who doesn't like your totalitarian system, ergo your utopia can't function without getting rid of them.
Yeah. What do you do about the next Epstein?
Yeah, throw him in jail after an investigation?
Yeah, but the years and decades of him being active.
Like, allow this trial to inform your culture so that maybe you talk to your kids about this shit not happening.
Yeah.
Or you recognize and call out people if you see them basically selling their kids.
Yeah. I have a big feeling.
What's her name?
Oh.
The girl that was the gymnast that has the famous like her face is all scrunched up. Her name's Michaela Maroney.
Yeah,
she was involved in a case that said, oh no, not only were they aware that this doctor, the Dr. Larry Nassar, was molesting us, the FBI fucking covered it up. You never hear about that.
Sorry, Bob Rip. Very true. And you never, the government doesn't just, okay. The elites don't just hide and cover for a motherfucker. They, I think suicide people. But there has to be an Epstein. Like, somebody had to have replaced him. Like, when it comes to his part in the underworld.
Well, I don't think, replaced him. I think there's probably 3 or 4 of them running at any one time. Like, I think these guys are assigned a territory like a wrestling territory.
They're given a fiefdom.
They're like, you operate here, like just like any other organized crime. They're like, you operate through here. Yeah. Nobody else is like, if anybody's fucking operating there and you notice it, you kill them.
Yeah, like this, they're given a fiefdom. Like, this kind of sketchy fuck is given. This is where you fuck around. It like gangs. This is your block. This is your hood. This is the corners you can fucking slang on. And damn, that makes sense to me. That makes sense, special guest. And I mean,
I think it's a lot more. I think it's a lot more likely. I think his place to operate, and this is why it's so big deal, was a sector that is centered out of a diameter starting in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
And, there's probably somebody who's got one out of Atlanta and somebody who's got one out of L.A. and somebody who's got one out of fucking Portland or Seattle.
One thing I like about
they create sectors like that to cover up the entire damn United States.
Yeah.
And it's yet again part of that management strategy of terrible crime that they say we'll never get rid of all of it, so we'll utilize some of these people.
Well, and you see how the UK is entrenched, much like how the empire of Britain grew, those infrastructures also grew, and there still seems to be stay behind things there too. So like, it might be, I don't know, one thing I like about the tattered map is you've really helped me wrap my mind around the different types of factions who are not just occupying the space we're talking about.
I think he works for the Brits, and I think the Brits have their own sectors of control, just like the Americans probably do.
Oh, totally. Yeah, they have their sphere, and theirs is more towards South America. Homeboy was in like a fucking Caribbean, like a classic, like you're exiled from the House of Lords fucking spot. You know what I mean? Like, there's too many things where, like, his markers as to what gang he's in seem real fucking obvious to me too. Like, but yeah, if you look at it almost like gang warfare, but globally. And what is the crack they're pushing? It's this fucking deep, dirty info on the elites and the wealthy. Well, I got a fucking video of so-and-so sucking so-and-so. I got a bunch of days theming around. I got a bunch of, what you need, who you trying to compromise, and what does it do for me? That makes sense.
Well, Well, and they let them run. They let them run privately, just like they let Intertel Corporation or any of those other groups run privately. So there's no actual way to tie them back to the different governments or whoever that utilize their services. And if they get remotely caught, it acts as a firewall. There's a big public show trial, but nobody gets in trouble.
Yeah. There's a big press shit show for the people who aren't in the towers. You know, for the people on the ground, and the people still stay in the towers. Straight up, it's a strange system. What do you do about something like that? I wonder who the fuck is occupying fucking Epstein's territory. I bet it's a few different people occupying the different shit he did. It probably got broken out.
Oh yeah, well, it's like without being libelous, right?
Yeah.
If a person was looking towards England and saying, if Jimmy Savile was some sort of terrible court magician, who would fill their role? The most obvious choice is going to be Darren Brown.
That's very true. Darren Brown could make you...
And I say that as someone who is suspicious of the British, but respects Darren Brown as a performer.
He'll leave you up the alley with your pants around your ankles and a lollipop out your mouth, boy, wondering where the fuck you came from. He'll leave you fucking spun around, dude. That fucking Darren Brown scares the piss out of me. There's horror movies and there's Darren Brown specials. You know what I'm saying? Like, it just spooks me endlessly, dude. And he's one of those.
I don't know how many of our listeners have watched any Darren Brown specials, but you really fucking should.
Man,
you should at least watch the one on him hypnotizing Simon Pegg, and I can explain every damn bit about it because I've spent years studying that clip.
Yeah. That one's where, you can see little moments too, when he got him, how he got him. Like, that's a really good one. The Darren Brown and Simon Pegg. He basically makes the motherfucker write down what he wants for fucking Christmas. Like, it's fucked up. Like, he'll make you think you hate your mom and shit. He can fuck you up in the brain. Like, it's
seriously, he'll make you think you wanted a wholly different thing than you wanted, and that what it was that you wanted, you never had any use for.
You never wanted ever. You had nothing. No, you never even thought about. It's surprising that you wrote it down to yourself. Like, he can fuck you in a way, As what's up, Brian?
I also think that's sort of a brag. That's sort of the Brits saying, "Hey, just so you know, for those of y'all in the know, we can do this shit. Can you?"
Oh yeah. Oh, I don't know who any of those people are, Brian. I don't know who any of those people are. Sorry, dude asked if I was still beefing with somebody, but I don't know who he's talking about. So, I don't know. I still do me, baby. I don't know. I don't have any active beef. I normally just bounce people I don't like, so I don't know. No. I don't. I make too many moves to look back, baby. But... Sorry, didn't mean to derail. I just wanted to address the chat real quick because I was like, wait, I don't know who that is. Do they know Mama Swole or some shit?
I just did a quick search and it looks like Butt Fudger has a SoundCloud account.
Oh.
And I'm not sure who B-Mask is.
I have no clue who the fuck they are. Oh, and he's worried about Kevin Savo. I have no clue who the fuck. I have no clue who any of those people are. But, things I'm up to, beats. I've been making a lot of beats. And I got some really cool shit. I'm dropping some kind of clean beats shout outs on I got a beat I'm gonna be dropping for you and Andy and Bo, dude. Straight up special guest. I got some beats.
Oh no, I want to check it out. You know me that like I don't tend to play beats by hand like you do. I've been programming a tracker since I was 16, so I play a computer keyboard. Like I play a computer keyboard like I play a guitar, So I tend to you pull out old school like tracker software to track my beats because I can do it like touch typing.
Oh, homeboy busts out this thing called Schism Tracker.
You do. I'm more on the final mix as opposed to the actual composition.
Oh, dude, it's crazy. Special guest will pull up something looks like Ferris Bueller is about to play some straight up fucking Tetris against the Soviets on it, but he'll fucking program a track on it, dude. And it'll have a beat on it. It's fucking crazy. He'll play some.
It looks like I'm making music in Excel or something. Like shout out to everyone from England who knows the type of software that I'm talking about because it's responsible for so much of their music.
Dude, like when the first time I think I saw you use Schism Tracker, I was like, is this an outtake from the first Matrix, bro? What is happening? What is this app? I've never seen this shit.
I'm gonna like. There's a whole scene of music that's based on that just never really hit America. That way back in the day, I wouldn't even call myself a minor player in, just a contributor.
Yeah.
But it was the first sort of like music sharing scene on the internet because the files were so tiny. But I'm gonna link in the Discord like some different music. I think that if any of y'all enjoy music, you'll probably get into some of it. Like if you like beats and melodies and compositions, if you can get into like prog rock, you can probably get into this. Or if you can get into opera, if you can get into like pop sounds, you can get into it. That's the cool thing about it.
Yeah, dude, I've been I got half of mine to make a whole Aphex Twin style fucking fast ass set on this SP404, just like for the one. Like we can finally do that project.
You
just book
should,
it,
man. Like I want to come in and do like a bunch of remixes. Is the thing like not my standard remix, but like a '90s remix where I'm just doing samples and making a new song.
Yeah. Like we could just set up the fucking Aphex Twin delay knob on the drums. You could hit the fuck, you know what I'm saying? Like I got a whole kind of idea of like, man, I have half a mind to just set that up on a whole different, on one of these banks on this SP404. But I keep getting just distracted by just again, it's been really nice kind of rediscovering my love for hip hop production. It's a lot of where Merc as a project started was, that's how that's what takes the longest on some of those tracks is like the sample work, the looping, the redoing the drums, the redoing the synths, the adding new synths, adding instruments takes less time than the hip hop production side of things. Or yeah, like the hip hop production side takes me longer.
Well, that's why I prefer like the software that I've used because once I've done the sort of back end work of getting my samples trimmed and everything like that, you can just visualize it. It's a sideways grid. You got me?
Yeah.
But you can visualize it, and you can just, using the keyboard and arrow keys, move around real quick to put stuff where you want with more precision than the mouse. Like the mouse offers you more fine precision, but you still sort of feel like you're trying to move a pea around the table with a straw versus using like the keyboard.
Yeah, if your whole DAW was laid out on a grid that you could just mouse through, hey, there's times where it's like you have to do something so precise you basically have to take it down to that level anyway. You know what I mean? Where it's like fuck the mouse. I gotta punch in here. I gotta fucking arrow, highlight arrow.
Type in the number.
Yeah. Like there's been a few different times even here lately where I'm like, fuck, I'll do something as old school as fucking possible.
Well, you've seen me, man. I'll mix to 1/10 of a decibel because it's exactly the right amount to get the stuff to pop exactly and mix how I want and keep a level of sort of ambiguity.
Yeah, I keep a pretty naturalistic to my setup is my one problem with kind of tracking lately is we're in a new space, so like I've been building us kind of a new demo setup in a place that's comfortable that I can just kind of plug in and get going, while also moving stuff over from the iMac because the iMac is toast. It's a piece of shit. It needs to get going, dude. It's slow as fuck. Having a 2013 MacBook.
Giving me so much problem that you're probably gonna need to make sure to set me up a space where I can stand up.
Oh yeah. Well, it's here in the living room, so it's gonna be right basically here. Like where I'm at now. I just wanted it to be, I needed a computer with the right kind of setup. I needed all my effects from Logic Pro. I needed all that. Yeah. But yeah. No, I've never done, I did do steroids once. It didn't feel that good. Steroids don't feel that good to answer the chat. I don't think so. I only did it once though.
Omicron does sound like the name of a Decepticon.
It does. It's actually Omicron Persei 8, dude. It's from Futurama. Lux pointed that out a while ago. I was like, or like when the news dropped, she was like, "Bitch, it's called Omicron."
What's his name? The best newscaster in all history. Lur?
No, like that. Sorry, the newscaster's not.
Oh, you're right. Omicron is the toad people. people.
There we go. Boom. Oh, but oh, the fuck was we just talking about? Sorry, what did Angel say off of mic? I thought I heard something. What did she just chime in with?
Oh, she was saying that the Omicrons were the folks always trying to invade, not the newscast.
Their chicken nuggets were their own sentient species, and that's one of the most devastating episodes of Futurama outside of Fry's dog, which is the saddest episode of any television ever.
Yes.
Fry's dog make you cry, just tear you to pieces every fucking time. That's a sad fucking episode of a show, dude. That shit had me just broke, like bummed broke. But
I watched that episode when it premiered, and it was like 5:30 on a Sunday. The sun was high, and I just kick open my bedroom door and waddle out like a toddler, just squalling like, I need a hug. The dog is dead.
Hug. Oh.
It's the middle of the day, and I am broken. Thank you.
Oh, man. But yeah, that's I can't. There was that, and then a couple of, but I'm a crier, guys. I'm a movie crier. I'm a TV show crier. If it's fiction and it's emotional, I might cry. If that's the goal of it, is to get a motherfucker to cry. But, you know, I don't know. I'm secure in that. You know what I'm saying?
Hell, I'll watch things specifically to cry if I feel like I need to.
Yeah. Yo. I don't know what made this pop into my head, but did you guys see that guy who went to court with the fucking name Buttfucker3000 stuck as his Zoom profile name?
No.
Could you imagine? It's Zoom court, bro, and it's stuck every time you talk. It says, it says Buttfucker3000. What was your fucking life before? What do you use Zoom for, bro? What are you doing on that?
Was it the lawyer or was it the?
It was a defendant. It was a dude who was definitely guilty of something, a butt fucking for sure. I don't know if that was what he was on trial for, but he's known on Zoom as Buttfucker3000. But yeah, that's what a fucking day. All right, let's update the Ghislaine Maxwell trial news and see if we got anything new popping off real quick. Let's see what we got. All right, here we go. Accuser testifies she received payment from Epstein's victim fund. The first Maxwell and Epstein accuser who took the stand Tuesday said she received a multi-million-dollar payment from a victim fund set up by the financier's estate. Because of that, the accuser, identified as Jane, told the assistant U.S. attorney Allison Moe that she agreed to dismiss a civil suit in 2020 that she brought against Maxwell and Epstein. Jane said she ultimately received more than $2 million from the fund and added she has no financial stake in the outcome of Maxwell's criminal trial. Ooh. Oh, my mic a little hot? Honestly, good. I kind of needed it a little hot today. I'll drop the gain a little on it, though. Probably got also get a little heated about this Maxwell trial. I've been waiting for this shit to happen. I didn't think she would actually make it. I thought when she was, like, reading Catch Me If You Can in Maine and shit that, like, nobody would actually catch her and she would just disappear into history. You know, I'm kind of glad that didn't fucking happen. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, no, I was absolutely worried that was what was going to happen. But you know, at least like I'm going to tell everybody here, I'm under the suspicion we're not going to get much justice out of this trial because I guess I'm a miserable pessimist.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping we do.
Yeah.
But I won't be surprised if we don't.
Yeah. Exactly. See, I won't be surprised if we don't get any resolution or if something happens or if at least now we're getting key witnesses safely getting to court. I never thought that would be something we'd have to worry about in a modern era. You know what I mean? Like, isn't that weird? We got to worry about an actual witness getting to fucking court and being able to testify. That's how powerful some of these people are. But again, guys, those names on that fucking flight log freaked me out. Like, I wasn't necessarily expecting like across the board Bilderberg wealthy people. Like that was wild.
Yeah, I mean, like, well, considering the types of people he went after, that's almost par for the course, right? It's just you'd almost think that they. Maybe I'm being classist against myself, but you'd almost think they'd be smart enough to know better.
Oh yeah, hey, you think? You fucking think? No. They ain't though. Hold up.
Oh, what a cat.
Oh, I kind of like this beat. Who was this? The Lime Vibe by Unda de Sango. Sorry. Sometimes a beat will come on the thing and I'm like, oh, fuck yeah. That's the business.
Yeah.
That's the business. Again, though, I've been immersed in just the beat life lately. That's what I've been doing. That's the longest part of any Merc record too, is getting the building blocks of the record together. But this one I kind of want to be a legit rap fucking mixtape. You know?
Well, no, I've been having some issues with my neck, which is causing me some issues with my left hand. It doesn't seem to affect my guitar playing. But I'll tell you right now, dude, I'm ready to go ahead and cut some solos while I can.
Fuck yeah, then. We got to. We got plenty of solos to cut.
Not just put any brakes on what you're doing at all. Don't feel it that way.
Not at all.
I know you. I'm pretty sure you can do both at once.
Oh,
but yeah, man, like that's been an issue, and I've been listening to that material a lot lately, and we should definitely work on it.
Yeah, the Witch Milk album in particular. Like, I went on a whole kind of love letter, fucking rant about it yesterday. Like, I think that might be something. We might have something.
Oh well, like look. That's the band you want to try to put together live because I've met maybe 3 drummers that can play those drums and none of them are around here. Like there's probably a drummer around here that can do it, but I don't know him.
The Witch Milk stuff? No, I programmed that to kind of like even
the Paraduma stuff.
Oh, the Paraduma stuff. No, yeah, that's like, dude, you got to be a really good drummer to play that shit. I don't know how the fuck we'll ever find a drummer that could play that shit live. I really want to. I don't know how the fuck we could do it. They got to be good as fuck. I wonder if we could around here. We'd have to put our ear to the ground and be like, hey.
I spoke to my friend in Tennessee yesterday, and she told me there is a drummer that is much better than her that lives in Tucson.
Oh, well, if she's here in Tucson.
She did give me his name. I don't want to give it live.
Yeah. DM me that hookup. I'll definitely reach out to him because, and anybody who's, you know, potentially good enough to kind of blast beat with just occasional moments to breathe. Like, that's kind of what I'm looking for.
Oh, yeah, I've never been a you've got to hit the record perfectly like it was written type thing. It's like, can you do that feel? All I give a shit's about is the feel, because what matters in a live environment is what people feel.
Oh, yeah. It's just what people feel. Yeah, it is. And that's another thing I like about that Witch Milk record. Another thing analytically about it is while it might not have as many plays as like one of the Paraduma things on like the secret channel, there's like, dude, it has the most interaction. Like, people like it. You know what I mean? Like, there's a type of cat that likes it. I never thought I'd see an obvious market show up for something like that. You know what I mean? And I was like, oh shit. That's a pretty broad, obvious market for that record. Like, throw some vocals on it, maybe a couple solos if we feel like it. But I like leaving the fucking 2 guitar channels where they're at. You know, like, fuck, that record's pretty solid. Like,
oh yeah.
like writing wise.
Well, no, I mean, we can like I'm not against changing it because it's a demo to my mind.
Exactly. And it's still kind of like. Oh, sorry, you might be cutting off.
Oh no, you go ahead.
Oh, it is kind of. I mean, it's one of those rough kind of ideas I put on the Basement Tapes channel and just remind us that, bitch, you want to finish this. The Paraduma stuff, bad. That's one of those. It's like it's kind of been. I desperately want to do that shit live. Like so bad. I just don't know how the fuck you pull it off. Like, no fucking clue.
Oh, that record?
Like I know we can, like the first Paraduma record in particular. There's just one track. It's like I know how me and you could. I just a drummer is, you know what I'm like.
Oh no. Yeah, no. The drummer's like the heart. Like honestly, if we were gonna do that live, we definitely have to have another vocalist too, because I'm gonna be way busy playing a guitar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like Witch Milk, I could probably do the vocals over that. Yeah. But I couldn't on Paraduma.
Somebody had asked yesterday. I think it was
somebody else can do the vocals on Witch Milk. That's also fine.
Yeah, I think it was Heisenberg who asked yesterday, "What tuning is the Witch Milk record in?" I don't remember if we moved over to the Fernandez and that's a straight up like drop D flat situation, or if that's a straight up like.
It's either probably going to be drop A from your D Armand, or it's going to be E flat. But I'm almost certain that it's going to be in drop A. I don't think I played that in B standard. I think it's in drop A. You know.
Yeah.
I like to play in different tunings, so I'm all around the fucking place on that sort of shit.
Yeah, I wanted to say there's a potentiality that a couple of those tracks might have been that funky ass tuning of yours.
I don't think with that one. I think what you got to worry about with that is that unreleased Handsome material.
Oh, I think we did use some of it.
Yeah, the bass is in sort of a funny tuning on that one, but that's whatever, man. We both been playing bass for forever.
Yeah,
that'll take like an hour to get used to at most.
Yeah. Hey, that Handsome material sounds good too. I need to get it bounced over to the new setup.
Shit, thank you, Heisenberg. I appreciate that.
He really,
I'm pretty good at what I do. I can sit here and go all day about what I don't do, but what I like about what I do is I feel like. I mean, I'm not the best guitar player out there, but I can play, and I think that it's anything that I do is something that almost anyone could say, well, I could learn to do that. Mm-hmm. Like, you hear some people, and it's like, there's folks who I'm like, I'm going to learn to try to do that, and if I don't, that's okay. But I think that almost, if you enjoy my records, you can learn to play them. If you just started learning to play guitar, it might take you some years, but you can. You absolutely can.
Yeah. Another thing I like about the Paraduma records, when every time I re-listen to them, are like, guitar-wise, you can learn this. This is a shreddy ass record. You can learn this.
Yeah.
Like this is something that while it's like you're at the edge of your abilities, there was always a moment there where it's like I'm kind of like take some of those flourishes out. Like some of that.
Hey man, like I'm not a bad guitar player, and I'm not trying to talk myself down. Like guitar player quality in terms of like whatever you want to call the best guitar player on earth by however you qualify it, right? Yeah. Has consistently gotten better my whole life. Yeah. And I have not gotten better as the general concept of guitar has gotten better. And that's cool. Like that doesn't bother me. I'm not somebody who views it like a game where I've got to win,
Well, I also disagree with that only because I've seen I think I could play you some records from like us starting to record together to the end where it's like you've grown as an instrumentalist. Like it might not be necessarily on like some people's like grid of shred daddy growth, but like you've definitely grown as a guitar player.
I still feel like I grow. I just feel like I've got a rate I grow at, and I'm going to grow at the rate I do, and I'll learn new techniques, and I'll get better. I could point out to you now, no problem, 100 guitar players probably who are more technically proficient than me. Whereas 20 years ago, I could point out maybe 20 guitar players that I knew were more technically proficient than me. It didn't mean that they weren't out there. right? That's another thing. It's not like I was number 21 in the fucking world or some shit.
Yeah.
But like now it has become a lot more normalized. And I think I guess if I could make a point, it's like that double bass solo in Rain and Blood, man. When that shit was new, it was hot shit. Now it's a warm-up exercise, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Man. It's fucking crazy. Just growing on an instrument, you know, every time I sit down to embark on any kind of recording anything, it feels like I genuinely grow on every instrument I touch on it. It's fucking wild how that happens, but it has to happen from interest too. It's another thing about creative endeavors, like it has to come from a place of interest or you're not going to get there. If I'm teaching someone guitar, I like that John 5 shit where it's like you ask them what they want, what they're listening to, like what song do you want to learn? Like, where do you want to start? Like, it's easy as like, well, do you want to learn how to play Enter Sandman? Let's start there. You know, learn a song first.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I've helped a lot of people start learning to play guitar before, and that's exactly what I do. I'm like, hey, what do you want to learn? What's going to keep that damn thing in your hands? Don't worry about theory till you've had some success at learning some songs. You don't need to know the theory. You need to be happy that you can play some songs.
Yeah, and you know, at the end of the day, that's what ends up being the most relevant and important thing when you get, you know, that thousands of hours under your belt. You know what I mean? Like now it's still all about enjoying what you're doing, and like you're going to like wanting to learn a like I've had to learn some like methods or whole ass instruments I don't really care for, and it's not fun and it fucking sucks, and I'm not that good at them and I never record them. You know what I'm saying? Like it's got to be, you know, something that you genuinely like. If you like finger picking style, you sit and you learn fucking finger picking style, you develop your own shit like that. Like it always comes from a place of interest, which is how people started, you know?
Oh yeah.
Do you think it'll take before Polyphia riffs become warm-ups?
Dude, Polyphia riffs are going to be warm-ups in fucking 5 years. Watch this shit, dude. People are gonna.
That's about what I was thinking.
Everyone right now, dude, and I've been saying this for the reason I got the little Strat clone I got is because it was even cheaper than like a GR, like an Ibanez GR, which is like everyone's studio rig right now. Polyphia, they play those two Ibanezes, and they're sick. It's that fucking it's totally dependent on what you fucking play that guitar through, and they sound sick as fuck. I like Polyphia a lot. They also incorporate like hip hop and dance stuff with their like use of VSTs and kind of like 808 sounds, and like they'll do the occasional like trap breakdown and shit. I think that's kind of cool to incorporate. You know, we're always going to see that incorporating, you know, the current genres into one kind of gnarly metal.
I think that you know, one thing that you've seen now too is that. Especially with the YouTube era and all of the guitar tutorials, there's a big focus on teaching people a real economy of movement and picking method and the like, you know?
Yeah.
So, and people are way more open-minded and not genre-focused anymore. So it's not like if you like guitar, you're going to learn, and you like to play fast, you've got no problem learning how those country guys go about chicken picking, which is about the most economical form of a pick structure that you could learn, you know?
Yeah.
Well, you do that, and suddenly some stuff that was real hard for metal gets easy. Say again?
Oh, I know a lot of metal players that started learning klezmer music, or what people call gypsy jazz.
Yeah.
No, I know klezmer music. Like, and part of it is because that is my favorite scale. Like that klezmer scale is the most metal scale I can imagine, dude. It's so atonal, but sounds so good, and just immediately makes me feel like I've transported to the Middle East.
I'm a Sephardic Jew, so that's the sounds of my people. You know what I'm saying? Like that just speaks to me every time, like at an ancestral level. The klezmer scale, like that's klezmer music in general. There's a dope ass Wolfpack song that's fucking some klezmer shit. The fucking saxophone through the wah pedal thing. Man, they got some cool shit out there in that kind of klezmer scale. That's, dude, yes. Sorry. I didn't interject with all of the agreement with you guys, because it's something I wanted to kind of go on earlier. Like, I'm a chunk of my ancestry is Sephardic Jewish, and so, you know, a lot of our history is not even fucking known or talked about or fought for. It's like they kind of throw a blanket term gypsy over it and then move on. Like, but it's like, bitch, we are flamenco. Like, we are a lot of these old Hispanic kind of musical traditions kind of go back to Sephardic Jews in the area. And
A lot of what's going on scale wise, especially, goes back to like people playing an oud or whatever in those scales.
Exactly. Yeah. No, these are. Yeah. No, that's straight up. Like you might be able to find a shred ass scale that's klezmer that's straight up like you might find that shit in a version of Psalms from a fucking Sephardic.
Yeah, but basically you're dealing with the scale from Miserlou. That's the song from the surf song from Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the same scale. That's like Miserlou's an astoundingly metal song if you think about it.
Yeah.
Like it's got speed picking, it's got the appropriate scale. It just doesn't have distortion or somebody going rah, rah, rah over the top of it.
Yep. That's one of those I just keep. Oh, sorry about that. What was that, Deb?
I sent you a private message on Discord with that guy's name.
Well, yeah.
The drummer.
Hell yeah.
He's supposed to be really good. I haven't heard him, but he's supposed to be like 10 times better than my friend, apparently.
Hey, I'll take a recommendation like that.
We're always interested in drummers.
Yeah, and I like, I'll let
him the video the other day. I shared it to her and she listened to it. She absolutely loved the music.
Yeah. Oh, hell yeah. I'll let him know too. I like to sweat my musicians. I do kind of. I will spring.
You'll get pushed, but it's like, are you here to make good music? That's why you're getting pushed. And also, if you feel like we're not making good music, push back, because we're also both very capable of taking criticism.
Oh yeah, my favorite thing in the fucking world. You don't grow without it. Like that's another thing that has really, I think, separated our process from a lot of other processes, and why we still kind of stay prolific, even during a pandemic, where it's like everybody's been slow the last 2 years. But fuck, we still got a Merc release out. We're still always tooling on something. We're always at least talking about something. Like there's just a certain amount of like thought and communication and constructive criticism that goes on in our process. That's like, if you jive with it, you jive with it. If you don't, you don't. You know what I mean? Like it's one of those situations. Like, and I've been at the point where it's like I fuck around with people who, like special. If I drop something on special guest and it's fucking bunk as shit, special guest let me know. What's that, Deb? You're kind of cutting out. You almost sound like the Fly. Got the Fly effect happening.
Oh, I was actually muted.
Oh, word. Heisenberg says, I love when guitarists will switch between major and minor scale, and every time it goes minor, it really bites and feels emotional. Led Zeppelin does it a lot. Yeah, when you pop into that unexpected emotional minor. I use minors a lot. Sometimes I'll throw minors in a quirky song where you might not expect a minor to show up, and I like how that works too. A lot of, things like Prom Night. I have a song called Prom Night, and it's a funky kind of, the chordage is weird. It's like functionally just 2 chords, but it's the way I'm doing it is there's a way a minor comes in because of an overtone that adds an emotional effect. It's supposed to be youthful and sad. Thinking about things like that is important. Yeah, music theory is important. Not that everybody should learn music theory. I understand that some people don't. And there's, I'm sure there are plenty of people out there who have made a lot more money playing guitar that only know tab. A lot more money than me anyway, so.
Oh yeah. Well, it's one of those things. If you want to be able to just up and do what you want to do without having to spend a bunch of time practicing and just do it, the theory helps, But it's not like, I've known plenty of musicians who were great musicians and couldn't count time.
Yeah.
It's.
Well, because of my background, sometimes it's weird when I hear that somebody doesn't read sheet music. I'm like, well, you never learned to read because I learned so young. And it's like, well, you don't know what keys and shit are. It's fine. We can get around. We can get along. I've been in full bands with people that didn't. Where it's like, I have the rock and roll side of the band, and then I have a whole like 2 violin players. I have to be the connective tissue. Like, well, here's how you communicate it in fucking music theory. To the other half of the band. This is a handy skill, but not necessary. Yeah, Yngwie's trilogy does that too. Yngwie loves that shit. Going from major to minor, dude. That's like his whole bread and butter, dude. Yngwie with that boy, I know everyone likes making fun of Yngwie, but I know he's a godfather and a shred daddy, but you know.
Oh man, like it's it's one of those things. He's got a ridiculous personality. He really comes across like Scandinavian Dave Mustaine to me. But like Dave Mustaine, for one, he can back it up.
Yeah.
And two, like have you heard how he gets his sound?
Yeah.
No distortion pedals. He's got like 40 fucking plexis that he turns up to 10.
He's just maxing it. Yeah, he's literally just redlining fucking amps.
Like I mean, he's competent, capable. He can demonstrate it. I think his later stuff's pretty ridiculous because I feel like he got stuck in the 80s. But like, dude can write an emotional song. Guy can play.
Yeah.
Like, for sure.
Straight up. Yeah. He still has 80s hair, says F-Grab. He does still have 80s hair. I know that.
Oh, dude, he looks like the like he and fucking current day Robert Smith have to be brothers.
Dude, they're buying their hair product from the same fucking place. I'll tell you that. That's some fucking Rogaine brand fucking hairspray or some shit. I don't know I don't know why you kept that shit going, but dude. They hate it.
Yngwie's market's never been us in the U.S., man. He's always going to be big in Japan and Europe.
Yeah, speaking of Yngwie, man, they hate it at Red Lobster when I try to order scalloped fretboards. They don't get it. They don't get it. They don't know what I'm talking about. They don't get the Yngwie joke. I'm at Red Lobster. They're like, what would you like? I have a scalloped fretboard. And they're like, what the fuck are you talking about? I'm like, well, if you could just, in between the frets, dig it out a little bit. Like, the fuck are you talking about? Yngwie style.
Suddenly, I want a Steinberger with the scalloped fretboard and a Bigsby trim. Just make everybody mad.
Heisenberg says, I tried to learn those Dave Mustaine spider chords. Shit was hard. Boy, those spider chords are fun, though. Once you get that shit down, once you get that Dave Mustaine style down, that's a cool... I'm not even a Dave Mustaine fan. I did that shit because I like Metallica and then realized that I aped a Dave Mustaine style. So that's also an interesting thing about spider chords. You might find your way to that guitar styling not even liking Dave Mustaine.
Yeah, well, you don't have to like Dave Mustaine to like his music.
And to understand that he is the godfather of that shit. Like, that's him.
Like, I'm shamelessly, look, I'm a Dave, like, I don't want to honestly compare the two. I don't think it's fair. But in terms of liking the music of people you don't like, I mean, I like Dave Mustaine, I like Varg Vikernes. I think I would definitely break Varg's nose if given the opportunity, and I don't assume Dave and I would get along. You don't
want to hang out with a goblin man? Hello. Hello, you. It's me, the Mimi, the real me.
Okay. Hey, look. Dave will, the whole time that we both share time on this earth, Dave Mustaine will be able to outplay me. There's no doubt about it.
Those vocals ran me off of Megadeth for the longest time. It wasn't until I heard people covering Megadeth songs that I was like, okay, I do like that shit. But I couldn't handle the redheaded fucking, yeah, hello, you, it's me, yeah. But now,
here's my thing is that I just can't imagine those songs with anything else.
See, now that I've gotten used to it.
They wouldn't be as good of songs to me without that, I hate to say attitude because I sound like a fanboy, but I don't know another word without his particular attitude over the top.
Yeah, I don't know.
Y'all know that Varg tried to start a cult with his wife?
Who did?
Varg Vikernes.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Did you know Varg has put out a pen and paper tabletop role-playing game that you can die during character creation if the land you're on doesn't make enough crops?
The fuck? That's right. It takes forever. It's like the longest role-playing game ever.
Yeah, but what Varg's figured out how to master is residuals.
I don't like Varg Vikernes. This is her wall. I don't like fucking Burzum either.
I'll never not laugh at that.
It's hard not to laugh at that track, dude. That's the most, in retrospect, laughable shit. I like black metal, but I don't like that era of black metal. That's just lame. It sounds bad on purpose. And they know it sounds bad on purpose. It's the whole point. It's on purpose. And look, you made something you don't want me to like. I get it. I won't like it then. Fine. It's like being handed a record by somebody who's like, hey, you, this specific demographic, fuck you, man. And I'm like, yeah, I get it. Here's this back. Here's you can keep it. I'll take my leather duster to go, baby. Ain't no
Their
trouble.
religion is based around the placenta, by the way.
What?
Really?
Placenta, everything.
Everything's based on
Everything's
placenta?
based on the placenta.
They believe they have some secret passed down tradition of paganism, and it's all about the placenta. The tree of life and all that shit is the placenta.
Really?
Fucking wild.
Before I knew who he was, I watched a lot of his videos, and then he started dropping the N-word every other word, and I was like, oh, I know who this is.
I remember you. Yeah. he's a fucking whole vibe. Hold on, I'm getting some echo from myself, I think, through Deb's Discord. So I got you on mute, Deb. Just let me know when you want back on, or take yourself off of mute. I don't know what's going on there, but it's giving me some weird feedback. Sometimes people in the UK or Europe, I've noticed in our Discord, it feels like there's someone in between us listening in. Like, it feels like there's always these weird audio issues. It used to happen with Zimmy bad, where it's like we're talking to Zimmy, Zimmy goes on mute, and then we just echo through Zimmy's shit. And it's like, how is the show echoing through Zimmy's Discord? That's muted. So weird. But, you know, I blame Big Brother, not the show, y'all's government. I blame y'all's government. Personally.
Dude, I watched I watched the other day one of the last statements that George Orwell made to everyone. And he's like, "Oh, the moral of 1984 is don't let it happen."
Yeah, don't let this shit
happen. And then
happen.
I immediately think of this thing from I think The Onion or some site like The Onion the other day that's like, scientists announce we finally made the pain matrix from the classic sci-fi book Never Create the Pain Matrix.
From the classic book Never Create the Pain Matrix. That's exactly...
You know, that's how it feels.
That's how it feels. You gotta be really careful with what you conceptualize and put out there. I've realized too. That shit does come around sometimes. Dude, you ever have an idea? You're just farting around and you're like, you know what would be cool? This or that. And then you get home, you turn on TV, and there's a fucking as seen on TV commercial for the shit like a month later. You're like, God damn it, they developed my idea. Dude, that shit has to be happening with so many other things. You know what I mean? Like George Orwell, I'm sure there were government people who were like, you know what? I want it that way.
Oh, yeah.
You know, fuck that,
That's a great plan. Also, fuck you for saying it's not, Orwell.
Yeah. That's why I get weirded out sometimes by like the fascistic, like the communist left, the hard, weird, our area's weird college scene.
Well, yeah, you're talking about Northwest Arkansas. Like, look, I love everybody back home. I really do. That is not lip service. But man, so many of them have gotten caught up in politics that they don't understand because it ties back to feeling like they're going to be a cool scene kid from 2011.
Yeah. And it's like, dude, you're not a communist. Particularly our friend that lives in an inherited house. It says he is. Like, dude, no, you're not. Like, you're not. B, you wouldn't like it. C, I got one blessing for the fucking czar. I hope he stays safe and far away from me. Like, I don't keep that commie gobbledygook away from me. I don't play that level of fascistic weird lefty shit. That's just weird. It's weird that they go there. I never thought in my life I would see people who in 1 year have a very like moral, open, bleeding heart, like liberal kind of ideal, like hippie to the max. Next year, short hair, overalls, hammer and sickle tattoo. Fuck are you? What is happening? Who's doing?
Well, like my suggestion would be that these people never really exactly believed the things that they believed. Yeah. It's that like, what did I learn the other day? Okay, do you know how zebra camouflage works? Zebras have that pattern not to blend into the grass, but to blend into each other, right? Yeah. So zebras that aren't in with the herd get eaten by the lions because they definitely stand out. But if they're mixed in with the herd, it's hard for the lion to target them.
Yeah.
It just seems like a lot of people who are operating on a mindset of whatever is currently going to keep me safest and make me seem like I am a safe person to be around.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, a lot of these people seem to be operating on this zebra camouflage mindset, many of which used to say, oh no, the thing to do is to think for yourself. And now it's the thing to do is to allow experts to think for you in every case.
Yeah, allow a new setting of precedents outside of yourself in adulthood, like outside of schooling. Like, it's fucking weird. The way this shit's, the social media in particular. Like, I still can't get over the commonality of like the amount of like crazy Russian bots and shit that showed up during the Trump administration, and then by the end of the Trump administration, all the lefties are fucking hammer and sickle.
Yeah, no, that was really, really mind blowing to me. But I think, you know, you've got a whole generation of people now who were not in any meaningful way raised under any threat of being killed by people who repped a hammer and sickle.
Oh, this is very true. They didn't even have really any kind of parents or anything to speak out against it. There's just, you know,
and now they currently try and point generally toward China and saying, oh, look at how great China's doing. Look at how high their GDP is. And it doesn't take into account like how wide the wealth disparity even in China is.
Dude, it's bad there. And how many people just go missing with no fucking justice, litigation, notice, whole families go missing. Like,
Weon, I don't know if you followed Weon News. They're a fucking Indian export outlet, right?
Yeah.
Like, they're Indian English language news, but they're the biggest exported news in India.
Okay, I'm gonna check that out.
And they've gotten into it with China. Like, as of yesterday, they're like, yeah, China's specifically trying to fucking censor us now. And then they broke, about 5 hours ago, they broke the story that apparently, and I haven't watched it yet, but I've gone and looked at their news to try and figure out if they're just a propaganda outlet or not. And at least what I can say is when they make a claim, it always seems accurately sourced.
Yeah.
But they seem to be saying that Xi Jinping was the person explicitly responsible for rounding up all of the Uyghurs.
Oh. Huh. Really?
Yeah, and that's like, I think 5 or 6 million people, you know, something like 2 to 3 times the amount of people in all of Estonia.
That's so many fucking people, dude. That I see, it's a humanitarian fucking crisis, is what it is. Like, you know, that's how
it feels to me. And then we've got half of the people who I think of as my friends, who it seems like don't think of me that way anymore, are like, yeah, we definitely need to rep China because they're the opposite of the people who made me feel bad.
Yeah, it's like, just because the U.S. sucks doesn't mean China's great.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And it's a really, really simplistic way of looking at the world. It's like, hey, you know, both groups could be real shitty.
Yeah.
Like, just saying. But one of them doesn't seem to be engaging in the same level of genocide, despite the amount of problems in terms of being murdering assholes they have been.
Yeah. I've just started letting anybody who was close to me that feels that way, let them know, like, that's, you realize in this system you're promoting, there's no place for me. I would be in a ditch.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, like,
that, right?
Almost all of those people have disconnected from me, and it's a shame because quite a few of them are very intelligent people who I thought were very empathetic. But
I normally combat them. Like, that's all I can really do is let them know, like, hey, that's personally kind of hurtful, like, that you think so low of me. You know what I mean? Like, that's normally what I come at them with, is like, really, like, hardcore, well, you know, like authoritarian
this is the problem
communism.
When people just accept ideology instead of like look at things on from their perspective.
Yeah. And there's it's just, there's one of those. And you know, it's also a strange time because there was an easy in set up by our system for people to be into that shit, like Andrew Yang. You know what I mean? Andrew Yang, and kind of the concept of the UBI, and then the pandemic happens, and then the proof that we can do it and sustain ourselves as a nation.
Well, like, and here's what I would say is that we say that, but where are we a year out? Like, if you got $15 an hour, it means that you can buy $10 an hour from last year.
That's true. Well, hey, look, inflation is going to happen, but look, the fact that...
But look how fast it happened as soon as they started cutting checks for everything.
Yeah.
And, like, it's not just for people. Like, we all know that the checks for people were hardly anything compared to, like, the bailout money.
Well, like, okay, so all of the Trump administration COVID bailout checks, you know what I mean? Like, all of the assistance we got, because, again, like, if you were paying, you got thousands. a lot of fucking money, and in a sustainable and can continue to do it way that could have stimulated the economy in a time of need. It was, in my opinion, what happened after that. The fact that there was no continuance, there was nothing but an attempt to remove any kind of help or aid financially to the American people, and that's why we see this whole end inflation. We had a different administration come in and immediately try to overcorrect, in my opinion.
No, that's how it feels to me, because they said it doesn't matter what the last administration did. By virtue of it being done by the last administration, it must be evil and wrong.
Well, and part of them doing this, in my opinion, is so that they can try to prove to people that cutting a UBI isn't sustainable for our country, when that's bullshit. I think that's bullshit. I think it is.
Well, they're trying to split it. They're trying to say, like Yang always said, "Oh no, everybody gets it." Yeah. Like, and keep in mind, the Republicans suddenly are now trying to push for this, oddly enough.
Yeah.
But Yang said everybody gets it, and the Democrats are like, no. People with children get $300 a month.
Yeah. People would get $300 a month.
That makes it two wholly different things. That makes it, instead of being something to help everybody, that makes it one class that you're gonna say, "Hey, look, I helped you out, vote for me."
Well, and $300 a month ain't shit. Like, my baby mama could fucking light a cigarette with those fucking child tax credit checks, as far as she's concerned. And while that money would help a lot of people, I don't understand why it's like that. I don't like that system either. Like, they replaced it with the wrong fucking thing, is what they did. Like, it needs to be more stimulus checks. There should have been at least 2 fucking more, or they should have opened shit the fuck back up. Like, in my opinion.
Yeah, it should have just been like fucking Florida never stopped. Like, say what you will about last year, the statistics proved out that Florida didn't do anything wrong. Yeah. Be mad at the fucking Republicans all you want. The statistics and science are that, and even the worst of them say, Florida didn't have any worse than anybody else, really.
No, yeah. But I mean, look, they gotta, this administration's gotta provide some relief, especially with this Omicron variant coming out. I don't know what we're gonna fucking.
Oh, well, have you heard about this shit? Like, South Africa's mad because they've immediately been told that nobody can travel from there. And they're like, did you not listen to what we said? Yes, it's highly transmissible. Yes, it doesn't seem to be affected by anything like any of the vaccines. Also, it's basically, in general, no worse than a cold.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, and everybody's just ignoring that last part so that they can panic again. Yeah. And guys, hey, I like, one of my friend's fathers died from COVID a month ago. Like, I'm not acting like it's not real.
Yeah, it's this.
But I'm acting like they're utilizing this to really clamp down on people.
Well, I thought they had found traces of the new variant in Europe already, so that was part of it. I know that a lot of European places have shut the fuck down. America's stopped sending people out to places. Already, it's already kind of.
And meanwhile, South Africa's like, did you not listen to the end of the sentence? It's happening. It's out there. Be aware of it. It took us a month to figure out what's going on because the symptoms are so mild.
Yeah. It's Well, and I haven't heard too much about the actual effects of the new variant. Just that there is a new variant and they're starting lockdowns again, which is. Yeah, I mean, look, if you're going to start lockdowns in America again, you better issue a fucking stimulus check, dude. People are going to lose jobs. People are going to lose jobs if you close shit down like it was a year ago.
Well, it seems like what they're trying to do is absolutely decimate any concept of the middle class that is left, period. Yeah. So it's like, either you get on public assistance because we don't allow small businesses to exist, or you were already of the class that's making payments to the political class.
Yeah, I think if that's the case, again, if that is the case, I would put money if in a few years we saw it kind of, again, the complete decimation of the middle class. In like a attempt to attack kind of our capitalist infrastructure where you get to have a middle class. I predict we see things like that you have to start waiving rights to get your fucking government aid.
Well, and I think that's what they already tried to do in the 80s with the projects.
Exactly.
Like, they were like, hey, black people that we've kept as an underclass for forever, we're going to dangle a carrot over you, but you basically have to be watched all the time and drug tested and all this shit.
Yeah.
Just to live here.
Just to be here. you got to waive your rights as an individual as to have any kind of body autonomy or any kind of right of search and seizure. You get to lift all of that to be provided with a fucking place to stay. And that's just, anything in that provided by the government in America, you got to look out for that kind of shit, in my opinion. Like, you got to let them know that shit don't work here. And
this is where people act like I'm a conservative, but it's really like, well, just look at history. Yeah. There's too many examples of it being abused, and too many people that just don't want it to try and make it a universal, mandatory thing.
Well, and being abused on both ends. It's being abused by the government to attack a certain class of people and a certain demographic of people, and it's being, abused by a certain demographic of people who didn't have shit to start with and never will, and become a complete ape of the system. I definitely have family that has abused the shit that the government can provide for aid. That it's a thing that you do see, particularly in the South, I've noticed, which I'm sure it's fucking rampant in metropolitan areas too. I know that
I'm sure it's rampant in metropolitan areas, but I would say in terms of general geography, it would be my guess that you would see it mostly concentrated in the South, because the South has been so poor, partially because post-Civil War they were never actually allowed to Reconstruction.
Yeah.
Like, it's being also, real, it was always we're going to punish you culturally forever in all senses.
Yeah. There's also a little bit of maybe it's only in the South maybe it's because I only know motherfuckers in the South who ball heavy like this, but I've known motherfuckers who flip a fair amount of fucking illegal narcotics and will take fucking food stamps. Like, they will take payment in food stamps.
Well, most of the people I know who did that, honestly, they had an outlook that said, I'm in the position that I'm in because of the government. And for a lot of them, I just don't know how I'd be able to argue that they weren't.
This is very true.
In my personal experience of people I've known, it'd be like, well, I don't know about it in general, but in your particular experience with knowing history, you were born sort of fucked, so you go ahead and get yours. I get it.
Yeah, you do what you gotta do. Okay, so we're gonna round down the show for the day. It's getting close to sundown on this end, and it's Hanukkah, baby, so I'm gonna be off air for Hanukkah. I gotta get a hold of my son, you know what I'm saying? But just want to recap on everything we've learned on the stream today. We did have some Summer Wells updates in the Summer Wells case, missing Summer Wells. Her father, Don and Candace, she went missing from their care and has still not been found. Today there were searches around the property. The police are saying it's totally procedural and normal, but dude, she went missing months ago. This is not a normal search. There was something on the ground being speculated that they started this new search because of new details they got from cell phone data. So let's hope something happens in the Summer Wells case. I hope it does. We've also been tracking and covering live the Ghislaine Maxwell trial. Today we got to hear from, a victim known as Jane, and she gave testimony as to the kind of horrible things they got up to. We also got to hear from a former pilot of Jeffrey Epstein today. So it's been kind of an interesting day for me. I feel like I have a lot to chew on, particularly with what's going on with some of the wealthier cats behind closed doors. Because, dude, the names on Epstein's list were deep. Like, I still can't get over that. Like, that's what they're up to. Because, that's been open up for speculation. Like, how did they get fucking freaky? Why did they get freaky? What, are they cutting people up? Are they selling the girls? What's going on here? And it sounds like it's functionally just prostitution. Like, they're tricking these girls into tricking them out. Like, they're tricking them out. It's fucking despicable, but a little more on the ground than I thought maybe it would be. Does that make sense, special guest?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Like, it is a little more grounded and real, like these experiences this victim had. And I think it's kind of important that, just for the sake of some of the conspiracy theorists out there, just to know the details of what these victims are saying. Like, at no point did Epstein remove his face and a reptile was underneath it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
this goes back to that whole Bezmenov judo thing, which, man, we might take a look at that tomorrow too. Like, it's such a widely viewed video. I just don't see us getting copyright struck on it. I don't even know who's supposed to own the copyright to strike it. You know?
Okay, we should be good then. Yeah.
But I'll find the part. But yeah, he specifically talks about how we'll get into the history of the video, but it's like the intelligence services of Russia in the 70s and 80s would find a thing and then go far past it, either to discredit it, right, or to take that movement and make it spin out of control. And I think in this case, it's like, oh, well, you hear a bunch of shit about people with lizards for faces because there's probably some truth here, so they need to get some fantasticalness after you've already heard some fantastic true shit that's purid and horrible to discredit the whole thing, because on some level none of us wants to believe that this shit's real. We prefer it was not real.
We will.
And if given the opportunity to pretend it's not real, many of us will decide not to.
That's very true. Many will choose the disbelief, when you
well, look, I don't want any of this shit to be real.
I just I like that we at least get a grounded account of something around Epstein. Sometimes the Epstein stuff gets so out there and so fantastical. It's like, I'm sure there's fire where there is smoke. I am sure there is something more to some of the things people say, but it's like, following the black and whites, boy, is that still scandalous on its own. And I'm
I wouldn't be surprised if they killed old McAfee, because he was the guy who was drone footaging so much of the investigation from above during that. Like, they pretty well proved that on Reddit.
He was chilling just islands over, wasn't he, for a long time?
Yeah.
So.
Well, it's when he was on the run from the feds still.
Exactly. Like, I think McAfee might have been a victim in the Epstein situation. That makes sense to me. I like that. Let's go out on that thought. I love you guys in the Discord. Special guests. We got Graf in the house. We got Justin. We got Deb holding it down.
Hey, what you doing tomorrow?
Tomorrow, the show. That's it, I think. I might
drop by in the midst of the show, so if you get a knock on the door, don't be surprised.
Hell yeah. Sounds good, my man.
All right.
I love you all in the Discord. You guys have a happy third night of Hanukkah.
Have a good one, man.
Oh, yeah. And everybody out there in Digital Land, you also have a good third night of Hanukkah. Just a reminder, Merc Radio, the talk show, is brought to you by BARKBOX and Atlas VPN. We have a special link in the description for you guys. We got a good deal. Get you a really cheap month of a VPN. If you don't have a VPN, you need one. And grab BARKBOX, man. Get your dog something cool. For all you Merkies out there that have pets, that's for you. You guys have a good one, and thank you for chilling with us today.